যে আনিল প্রেমাদান কারণ কাচো
And I don't know if anyone's been over in China for a month. You get tired of fried rice. And start taking our time and gone to the store and picked out a nice cake. He says, "What kind of cake is it?" I mean, I guess it's just a chocolate. He says, "No, it's not. Get the box." So I went into the kitchen, I got the box, and he says, "Read what's on the box. Betty Crocker, Devil's Food Chocolate Cake." He says, "Devil's Food Chocolate Cake." He says, "Devil's Food." He says, "Devil's Food, this is not befitting for the food." I said, "Oh, great. We tried so hard." So he took a little morsel out of it, took it away. We got into the kitchen. I ate 3 pieces in 2 seconds. Now tell me chocolate all we were all in Texas. But that was just one of the great stories I had, limited ones, and I'll tell one more and I'll sit down and let y'all carry on. Another real nice one was when we were in Fiji in just 98, I think. Several devotees. It was an incredible turnout. We had like 20 devotees from Dallas, Houston. They went to Fiji to accompany Srila Gurudeva. Well, we had every day, we had ecstatic kirtan, Harinam. It was just like the most blissful time I think I've ever had in my life. It was really incredible to have all the nice associational devotees. First time being to Fiji, first time with Gurudeva, a long time traveling. And we were having this great Harinam right on the street. And everybody loved the devotees there. But of course, you're going to get a few half-wits that aren't going to like the devotees. So we ran into a few of them. They were Muslims. And on top of them being Muslims, they were intoxicated Muslims, giving us a little hard time. So there's one particular guy. He was a small guy, He was like right up in Gurudeva's face. And I never left Gurudeva's side. I was there all the time. He told me not to leave anyway. So this guy was like, right, he's all following this. I leaned over to Srila Gurudeva. I said, "Srila Gurudeva, you want me to remove this?" He said, "No, just leave him be. He's getting a little obnoxious and I don't like this." He said, "No, don't worry about it." So we're all dancing really nice. And we were out on the sidewalk. And he was like right in front of Gurudeva. There was a curb. Dharma was standing on top of the curb. I was standing here. Srila Gurudeva was standing here. And this guy's like, making all these obnoxious noises. So Gurudeva said, "Step aside." So I stepped back. He took Dharma and he pushed Dharma into the guy. The guy flew down. Dharma flew down. He couldn't walk. He was so drunk, he couldn't get back to help him go along. He probably ran along into the crowd somewhere. That was a good one. Carry on, that's all. Should we keep it to humor, or also should I stick in one very sweet one?
Yeah. Put in the space.
Well, I was thinking because Purnamasi is not here. so this is good to have recorded in her, is when Srila first decided to go back to school, it was really sudden. It was either, go to China and study, right? Or to SMU for those of us that were around. It was a major decision. And then he applied to SMU long after the admissions had closed. You heard sometimes Dr. Cleaver explain that story. When he walked into him, Dr. Cleaver said, he proceeded to introduce himself and who he was, and Dr. Cleaver said something like, so? He ended up getting in. But during that time, there was a lot of, you could say, tension. Purnamasi, for those of you, everyone knows her a little bit? She doesn't speak about herself, but she was, before she retired and started having health problems, she was one of the top 5 human resources people in the United States, lecturing, training, very top executive for a huge corporation. And there she was, just trying to get him enrolled in college, but it was a tough time. And simultaneously, she didn't know that her health was really failing. Her resting heartbeat can rise up to close to 200. She has electrical impulse problems in her heart, and it goes on and on. So she ended up leaving and, getting fried, I guess you could say, during that intense time of trying to get him situated in school. And I know she did not have good feelings. She moved to Florida and spent time with her mother. Her health went down. It was not good. She gradually felt that she missed the devotees enough that she came back to Dallas. The very day she returned, Kirtida was going through her final pastimes, and she was in the street, and Gurudeva saw her and crossed the street and walked up to her. I don't know if I can say this. And just according to Purnamasi, he just took her hand in both of his hands and said, "Oh, Purnamasi, Purnamasi, Purnamasi." And just stood with her for 30 seconds, and that was it. 4 years of anxiety were washed away, and she just was wonderful.
I'm Krishna Consciousness, Houston, Texas, for good 23, almost 24 years. And I think I had about as many stories as Arjuna from a different perspective, south of the line there. But I was there during, I joined about a month after the episode with Bhaktivedanta and the Brahmacharis, and I can attest that I was a Brahmachari also when I joined, and it was pretty intense. The mood there was difficult at best for the ladies, even after that. Especially about a month later, it started getting a little less official when Gurudeva wasn't around. But they were really nice. They also shaved up her youngest son without her knowing about it. They really wanted to be helpful. I remember her face when she got her son back. Oh, thank you. It certainly wasn't her plan for that day to have her son shaved. I mean, the dad was this big, he was just sitting there, It was amazing, but he was perfectly happy. That was Subhuti Roy that did that one.
You were the one that did it.
No, I was just witness of it. I was just there, and I thought it was a little odd. I just joined also. I didn't have all the takers that these older Brahmacharis had. I just thought it was a little strange. But also about that time, anybody who here joined previous to 1985? Okay. Very good. Okay. Well, anyway, Gurudeva at that time, in particular up to 90, had a real heavy reputation. I mean, there were excellent cooks around the world that would disappear from the temple when he showed up there in case that they were asked to cook for him. Things like that. So, just the first experience I had of that heaviness, I was new devotee just a few months or so, maybe not even a month yet, practically. And it was upstairs in the Houston Temple. The Houston Temple was like a shoebox. It had a corridor down the middle of it and rooms on either side. And in the Pajori room she was talking about, when she said she couldn't go in, it was a closet, basically. And actually it was the hall. They had, of course, they had refrigerators on one side, and then they had a counter on the other side. You had this much room in it. So there was no way anybody could go in there if somebody else was there. But I was upstairs, they told me to wait. I was waiting outside Srila Gurudeva's rooms. because that's what they asked me. One other devotee asked me, just wait, I'll go in my office or something, just sit right here. So I sat right there. And sure enough, my luck would have it that Gurudeva came out of his rooms, which is just, 10 feet down the hall. And I offered obeisances, and that's what I was supposed to do. And he says, what are you doing here, Dr. Curtis? And try to understand the perspective of the situation. I'm sitting on the floor and he's standing. He looks like he's about 15 feet tall, standing here with this huge dada. They're really strange. It's a very surreal memory for me. And I says, I'm waiting for, I forget who it was. I was waiting for such and such, Prabhu. Right. I wasn't waiting for such and such Prabhu. I was waiting for such and such Prabhu. And he was standing there with his danda. And he goes, Dr. Curtis, you do not refer to your Guru Maharaj as Prabhu. And I was just like echoing through the hall, it's echoing through my brain, it's just crumpling my heart up. I realized 2 months in, I'm out already. This is it, it's the end of my life. And I just looked at him, and I couldn't even ask him, well, what am I supposed to call you? I said, what should I call you? Ask the authorities. And just walked off. The first devotee walked by, I said, I referred to Gurudeva. And I said, you always say that. I just called him, oh, no. So that's kind of how he got this heavy reputation. It was an act in many ways. Because I've seen him at other times, shortly after that, like around 1980 or so, when he first came back from China. So he was ranting and raving. One day in his room, he called me up. I think just the witnesses of nothing else. But he had told us, I think, we could spend time with him. So he's pacing back and forth. Remember when you get angry and talk about him, pacing back and forth like this. And he'd say that, and he'd say that, I can't believe this, but I can't believe this. And then my Mataji came up. And I found the door. Goswami Maharaj, I'd like to see you. And he immediately sat down. Completely peaceful, calm. She came in and told, I'm having this little trouble about this and that. And he spoke to her, this was Dave Rajan, spoke to her very nicely and encouraged her, yes, it's very good, it's very sweet. Yeah, and thank you, Gurudeva. She out of the base, she walks out. Immediately stands back where he was. Next one. It really is transcendental. I mean, it was just like, like split second, personality shifts. And it didn't faze him. And it was just remarkable. He could be extremely happy and extremely sweet. And so it was all part of his effort to develop relationships, to help the devotees along, and etc. He was right there for you every time. He was heavy. He was at one of the heaviest times ever. This is a short story. This happened right here at Prabhupada's disappearance festival. He was actually the first one, 1978. He was in Houston. He saw the Prabhupada Puja there that year. And every other year after that, he was in Vrindavan, except for this one year. And I think that must have been 84. 1984 he was here, and he was making a very, very big arrangement for glorifying Srila Prabhupada. We were going to have Abhishek for the Lord, and everything had to be perfect. It was planned out to a T. We invited other godbrothers from other places in America. And then we were godbrothers that were here. And since he'd never been here at that time, we really made sure that everything was right. This was also during the time we had the State Fair of Texas was going on. So we had this, huge $30,000 investment at the State Fair of Texas. So they took the good sound system down there. We had another sound system that we had replaced it with, but it still worked 90% of the time. And when it didn't work, it just didn't work. And there was nothing you could do to make it work. It would just work again, whenever it wanted to. That's the way it was. And we knew that, but still we needed sound system. Everything had to work at the State Fair. So here we are at Mangalarti time, 10 minutes into Mangalarti. Go on. And everything's going fine, nobody's noticing it. I mean, everybody knows it, but still, the kirtan was going on, it was nice and loud, everybody was chanting, everybody was dancing. And I could see Gurudeva over in the wings, he was just kind of fuming. And he said, well anyway, I'm going to enjoy Mangalarti while I can. And I was dancing and chanting, and finally he walks up to me. He realized the sound system isn't working. Yes, sir. Why are you dancing like nothing's going on? Get in there and fix it. And everybody in the room practically, because we know there's nothing you can do about it. It will start working again, eventually. But not until after he came into the room. As soon as I walked in, he sometimes gets impatient when he wants a particular thing done. He walked in about 30 seconds after me and just literally melted me into the floor. Do you realize this is the only day I've not been in Vrindavan for this festival? I'm trying to have a nice festival. I want everything. And just started there and went on for about 5 or 6 minutes. And by the time he stopped, he had asked me, so what are you going to do? I'm going to send somebody down to State Fair, Texas right now. But they're going to go, this is 4:30, 4:45 in the morning. They lock all the gates there. He said, I'm sending someone immediately to go down and get the sound system and bring it back. Good. That wasn't as easy as it seemed. It took a long time to find somebody that would go down there, and actually the gates weren't open until about 6:30 or so, so nobody could really go there till then. And of course, by that time, the sound system was again working, so he was very pleased. But as soon as I got a chance, I unplugged everything. I said, you take this with you. I'm keeping it ready. And that's how it is.
He had her hand up for a second, then sorry. But Mahavapur seems to be close there. Okay. We should try, because there'll be so many as you keep going, because we all have, so try to get right to the point. Yeah, without all the unnecessary terms.
So, Gurudeva had, because we traveled with him for 3 months, there was many things that happened. I remember one funny, very nice story. When we were in Fiji, Fiji is just heavenly planet. Anyone who has ever been there knows it. And so we were quite happy there, and there was this huge initiation ceremony in Latoka, and everybody was dancing and, very beautiful. So we were all going around the fire. And after the yagya, as we know, you get some little bit of the ashes of the yagya. So there was this brahmachari going around. There was war between the brahmacharis and the matatis, the men and the ladies. So he was going around, he had done all the men. And he started the ladies. I think I was one of the, somehow he also did the ladies, and I was one of the first. So I don't know if he was nervous or what, but somehow he placed it like here, instead of there. So then I didn't even notice it really, I didn't mind, I was just going around. Maybe I was dancing and just trying to reach my hand, I don't remember. But so then later I heard he turns to, I think either Radha Krishna or Radha, I forget, he told me later. Then Gurudeva said, look at Rati Manjari. And that was really like father, like daughter. Yeah. So one thing that you might not expect from a sannyasi, he was really particular about that, but he also saw how the women looked and how they shouldn't look. He also knew that, and I'm not really queen of dressing, so he noticed that very early. And so you could try every now and then and give me a little advice, how to kind of improve my appearance. So he said that to Nanda Kumar, my husband at the time, tell Rati Manjari that in Fiji this was, that she should look at the ladies, how they wear the sari. Well, you can very funny. How they wear the sari over the head. And the Fiji devotees, they're just so natural, and they're all like, it's long. So they just kind of, I don't know, it kind of floats on their head, just stays there without any effort. Even silk saris just stays on their head. I mean, I wore my sari over my head all right these days, but I didn't want this, more like this. So he said, he looked like that, but something like it. At least in his life, it must have looked like this. So he said, tell Bhakti Manjari, she should look and learn from the ladies here, how to wear the sari properly, things like that. I think, God, he looks at me how I wear my sari. He's like in the middle of this huge, happening, and then he would tell a little thing like that. So another time I was serving him in Dallas, it's the same topic. How lady should just trying to increase my time here. In Dallas, I was serving him up in his quarters, and I had this nice T-shirt of Prabhupada distribution, something, under my sari, right? So I'm going up serving, and everybody's out of the room, and he says, "Come here, sit. Ladies don't wear T-shirts." I thought, oh my God, so I checked in the mirror, if I had, if he couldn't see really, but he just noticed, a T-shirt on. So that's my Prabhupada Marathon T-shirt. So much for that. And then one time he came to see us in Amsterdam, and I was so happy. Normally I would look quite plain, but when he came, I was so happy. I put my bangles, I put my silk sari, I put the makeup, which I normally wouldn't do. So I had, I thought I would, as good as I could. And I thought, people would be happy with that. So, we had a few hours, and he was there. I was happy. He was just very, solemn, being the guru and, getting these little services and arranging things. He didn't really tell me anything, So I thought, well, God help us, all right. So after a few hours, the first thing he said, "Bhakti Manjari, you look like a clown." I thought it was probably hopeless, but he meant the eyeshadow. I thought it was very artistic. I was 2 shades of eyeshadow. Which I only used to do in my very, prime nights or something before, Anyhow, so much for the eyeshadow. So I stopped that. I had never done that since. Now, we skipped forward several years. I'm sitting with Gurudeva in Cambridge last year, at his lunch table. Yeah, I'm going to tell it. I don't know how appropriate it is, but I'm going to tell him. So, yeah, sure. I've tested it on several ladies. Alright, so I'm sitting there alone with him. Sarabhoma comes in, and he says, Did you boil these pakoras? I said, I forgot. And he said, "Bhakti Manjari, I don't know why I'm even training these people. It doesn't work anyway." And I said, "Good, they're nice devotees." I didn't talk about them being nice devotees. I know perfectly well they're very nice. But so he's like, just taking me in his little world, this big world, but it's like private life, and it was really nice. So then I noticed one time I had just gone into the city, one time I was there 1.5 days, anyhow. That morning he kind of sent me off to do things in the city so it could be peaceful to study. I came back for lunch, I showered, I put my makeup on. I was doing that every day, like, a little lipstick, a little something blue here. But because I just came out of the shower, it was like everything was fresh. I felt really good, to close to the more goodness as I can, So I'm sitting there, and he's eating. And I noticed he doesn't have his glasses on. So I'm saying, and then he says, "Is there any reason why you put so much makeup on today?" I said, "No, I do that every day, like this nowadays, I said, "It used to be more, right? Remember, you told me I looked like a clown?" He said, "I just had to put off my glasses, it was too much." So here I'm going thinking, oh my God, am I seducing my guru or something? Why is he saying that? So then, anyway, my father, it's all right, So he said, one more line, which is a good one. So he says, he comes to me, after a little while, he says, what does Ananda Swarup think about this? It's my partner. So I said, well, he likes it. He said, good. I suppose on this subject, his opinion is more important than mine.
One sneak one in that's short. I was driving in that first year or so that we were here. I was driving him and Bhaktivedanta Swami at that time in his Ram Charger. Those of you that were around remember the Ram Charger. So I was supposed to drive them from Boston from a program to Houston. And how long does that take?
2 hours.
To the temple. The old Rosalie Temple is about a 3-hour drive. So Gurudeva said to me, as I was driving, you have to make it in 2 hours. So I figured out the mileage and how fast I had to drive at least 85. So of course, they both fall asleep in the back seat, and I'm driving down the highway screaming, at least 85, right? So probably 90. And then the siren, I get pulled over, it's the police. And then they wake up, and Gurudeva says, why are you going so fast? He said, you're not going to get me to pay for this ticket. So I paid the ticket.
I'm nervous. I'll just do it. Come on.
Nervous is good.
Come on. We love you.
My name is Ananda and I'm from Chicago. When I first reached Srila Gurudeva back in the Philippines, he came to there's a big, turmoil between zones, the and the devotees, he wants to take over, but they won't let him in. They lock that door and everything like that. So he get a hard time taking over the zone because the devotee is fighting back. For weeks and weeks he's trying and still he cannot go in. And then he asked some of the devotees who went to him and, and they said that which devotee should I capture so everybody will follow? And they said, get Ananda. I was Ananda at the time. And he asked that who's his closest friend that we can send to capture her. And I have a very nice friend, Mrs. Weber. I used to preach to her. Mrs. Cole. Yeah. And I go out and send her then every day. And she always there and trying to talk to me and, there's a pure devotee here, you should come and see it, and, and she tried different ways to take me with her so she can really pursue the Gurudeva. And finally I said, okay, let me just go there just to pay my respect because he's a pure devotee. And after that, I'm going back on distribution. I said, just a little bit of your time, just a little bit, just go there. So finally I went to the hotel and when he saw me, I came there around 10 o'clock in the morning and I never come out. And then he asked somebody to book some room next to him. And then I am with him and he talked to me and preached to me for hours and hours. And then the following day he took me to Cebu and I never fly an airplane before. And this is the first time that, Srila Gurudeva and we went in the airplane. And he showed me like affectionate father and daughter relationship with him. He's very nice. And then he gave me an initiation and he's giving me his name and after the initiation, he called me in his room and talking me more, and then he kept staring, looking at me with a loving stare, like father relationship. And I never forget it. It's been years in my mind. It's taken in my mind that he said, "Ananda Vrindavan, you are the apple of my eyes."
Please say your name too in so that we can have the record.
Sorry, Mohandas. I was, it was in England. He's a light sleeper, and I think here in Dallas his quarters are such that he has not too close to other noises and things. So in England, the housing was arranged in a similar way. There was a house we had in Cambridge that it was like two houses in one connected. So Srila Gurudeva had a whole side of the house, and it was 2 levels. So he would sleep up in the top level in the little temple room right next to his bedroom. And the other devotees in the house, even the guests, occasional party when you come, the guest room was on the other side of the house also. So there wouldn't be any noises so much to disturb him. The one thing that we sometimes had to remember to do though, when some guests on the outside godbrother was coming, sometimes they come kind of late in the evening or whatever, but we have to tell them that in the morning, don't go to the temple right away because Goswami Maharaj might still be sleeping. So, during his college days, when I was college students, they stay up late, and he didn't have to go to temple, and his mind was very active, so sometimes he'd be having a hard time falling asleep, because sometimes he wouldn't fall asleep till very late. So Chaitanya Chandra, who from Dallas was visiting, I believe he came for the London Rock Theatre that year, and he had just arrived and then I think he came straight to the Rock Theatre or something, and he came that night, for just spend one night, I believe, with us there, and we forgot to tell Chaitanya Chandra, in the morning, when you wake up, don't just go to the temple. So Chaitanya Chandra is a big kind of person, and he's just likes nectar, so he just got up and he didn't, on his own, he didn't think he might be coming close to Gurudeva's room. But he just kind of went straight into the temple, and, it was just actually a miracle. It's not a real funny story, but somehow the Yogamaya energy just protected him. He went into the temple, and all of a sudden we see the door open. There's another door before the temple room. We saw the door open, he kind of was just there. He kind of, I think before he started chanting, he just kind of was just looking at the Gauriya deities and was quiet. But he had kind of like lumbered in and opened the door, and somehow by Krishna's mercy, Srila Gurudeva didn't wake up. So it was very nice. And then one of the hardest things sometimes was to make telephone calls for Srila Gurudeva. Because one time His Holiness Sri had visited England, and after he visited to Gurudeva, he gave a class at the Bhaktivedanta Manor. Then right after the class, he had to get in a car and go to the airport. So at that time, Guru Maharaj's health was not so good, and he moves kind of gently, and I think shortly after that he had some heart problem, and in California. But so Srila Gurudeva, he had visited Gurudeva, and Srila Gurudeva wanted to talk to him before he left England, and but it's very hard to call someone at the temple. You have to catch them just after they finish the class and before they get in the car. so you call the temple, and it's very difficult to get through. So with a really lot of effort, I called several members of the temple, and finally got Gurudeva Maharaj on the phone. And he was actually used to sometimes Srila Gurudeva just calling and asking him some philosophical point, and he actually had to get to the airport very quickly. So he was feeling this pressure, and finally I got him on the phone. And I'm saying it from my perspective, but I don't know what actually happened. But I didn't actually ask Maharaj, but when Maharaj heard it was a telephone call from Tamal Krishna Maharaj, like I would make the call, then when I had him on the line, I connected him to the Gurudeva. He just was shocked, and then just like, there's like a pause, and then like, so I think he just hung up. But he was afraid. The Gurudeva was so forceful that he was looking he's very domineering personality. And so his Gurudeva Maharaj is very humble. So I think that he thought, if I start to talk to Srila Tamal Krishna Maharaj, I may miss my claim, who knows. So anyway, he pushed on, and then I had a little difficulty explaining to Gurudeva that I didn't connect him. But then what saved me was, I believe Maharaj called from a mobile phone in the car when he was driving to the airport and called Srila Gurudeva. So that saved the day, but that was
He actually hung in there a long time and did wonderful service when Gurudeva was in England the last couple of years. So Sarvabhauma Prabhu ki.
Gurudeva also said at that time that he was the only person that lived with Sarvabhauma for that long.
So they didn't set a record. So they both set records simultaneously.
I'll tell you what.
I'll just repeat. Like Krishna Prabhu said, this is the record on that, so I'll just repeat it. Said is that Srila Gurudeva's comment, when we would say, well, Sarvabhauma really hung in there a long time, he'd say, yeah, I hung in there also because no one else could have lived with Sarva for 2 years.
I'll tell you God told me personally that he's never been accused by anyone that's holding
I didn't hear that. Repeat? Yeah. In the mic. Can you repeat it?
Yeah,
please.
I talk. I'm noticing so much hearing all this talk. So please just let me do this. I just gotta tell you this. He was saying how dominating personality Tamal Krishna Maharaj was. He never lost at anything. Did he ever lose at anything? Ever? Anyway. It took him 6 hours to convince me to take up the Govardhan project after I was up to here. You know what management of this, but you know how things are. Right? All the old timers know more than new timers. But I was just up to here. There was no way that I was going to get involved with managing anything. It took him 6 hours, and he was so expert, so powerful. I don't even remember what the argument was. Anyway, on this subject, he told me personally, when we get finished with this, project, and, he said, I'm going to have a celebration. Because he said, finally someone is defeated me. Sorry.
Yeah, how?
It's survival.
He tried to make Sarvabhauma do certain things, and Sarvabhauma was the way he is, so he just didn't. He kept doing just enough, right? Just plodding along, just enough, right? And everything, and it's quickly. No, listen. Anyway, okay. You know, Gopal was really a good cook. But he was in Govardhan, he was our cook. And then he went to Cambridge, and he didn't function cook, male cook. And there was no one else in the whole world, except for Gopal, happened to be our cook. No, anyway. So, once again, he won. You know, hands down. So, Gopal went there. And so we used, all of us, especially me, I would stay with him a lot because my service was kind of like conducive because I was editing, so I could just go there and edit, and he would work, and I would work. We just get together during Prashara sometime and exchange with him. Anyway, so he was accustomed to the best cooks in the world, wherever he went. And if they weren't the best cooks in the world, they would become the best cooks in the world. Because, you know, he knew how every single thing was supposed to taste and everything. But Sarvabhauma, he has this gift. I don't know if you know this, but he's actually a very good cook. When he really concentrates and cooks, I mean, I had some of the best prashadam I ever had, you know, when I was there at Cambridge. So what he meant was, he was trying to get Sarvabhauma to do this, that, you know, he wanted to, you know, like, create this super, you know, like, I don't know, you know, what do they call it? The servant of a man's man who takes care of everything. The Sarva's kind of person who just kind of like, he does one thing at a time and he does another thing. He doesn't multitask like so other people do. Some people are different characters. So, but he was trying to get him to do that, but his cooking was so good and his service attitude was so good. He was such a humble servant. That's why he stayed there all that time. And he tried to make him into something that really he wasn't. And nobody could do that. He couldn't do that. His heart was just so fixed in the way he was, but at the same time, he was so good at what he did, cooking, that he just defeated Tamal Krishna. Just before I came here, I stayed overnight with his mother in Los Angeles. Sarva's mother. And I found out why. His mother is a real peach. I'll tell you.
Wait.
Yeah.
Everybody else, every time you finish, there's 10 one.
Yeah.
So I never shaved up Gurudeva because there were some things I did. You know, phone calls, airline bookings, all that was easy, managing, typing, book stuff. So I was in LA traveling and there was no one else that could shave him up. So it was my task. And I didn't know it at the time, but I developed regular cases of asthma. So I was getting over a cold and I had saying, you start coughing, you know, your bronchial tubes are spasming and it's an asthma attack. So with Gurudeva, anxiety created asthma attacks for me. So I was trying to shave him up and I started coughing and he gives me a look like, you know, because you're not sick or anything, right? He was going on elevators to cover his face, right? With his cloth, not to get ill. So anyway, I didn't have any treat because I didn't know it was asthma. I was in Guru Bhakti. So I had Robitussin, you know, to stop the cough, like in the kitchen. So I cough, excuse myself, go in and take a swig. Then go back, cough again, and it was like, I didn't even get started. Then I just got so frustrated. He kept asking me questions because the more you talk, the more you gasp for air. And he knew that I was struggling, so he figured, you know, let's really get him to confront this weakness. You know, it's like, go out in the ocean and confront that wave. So he figured, get him to talk. So he keeps asking me questions, forcing me to talk. Finally, I went in the kitchen, I just drank the whole pot. And I came back and shaved him up, and the rest of the day I don't remember.
My name is Acharya. I'm living in the Philippines, but I live in LA. I had the good fortune of serving Gurudeva I was actually the first Filipino to travel with him at that time. I believe it was 84. And during those times, he was really heavy. So, everybody knows that. So, it was our last day in Mayapur. And those who serve Gurudeva knows how everything should be done. And he would always have guests around him, like Bhaktivedanta Prabhu he's always there. Kirtananda Prabhu, H.H.Tamal Swami, Bhaktivedanta Prabhu, and I always have to arrange for cakes in the evenings. And since it's just a poor brahmachari, I don't really have that much money. I only have like 10 rupees every night. So I had to bribe this pujaris to give me some cakes and hot milk. So that was the last night we were there. And so they were all relishing their pastimes. They were having a really nice, good time. And so I came there with these huge cakes. So I started serving them cakes. So, and then I only had, I think, one set of a silver plate, but I had to serve everyone with a cup. So I had to figure out a way to get all these cups, milk served. So I had to get these earthen cups from the kitchen. As I was serving everyone, he told me, okay, serve my godbrothers first. So I gave them the cake, and they were taking the cake, and then, where's the milk? And I said, I'll get the milk. And I was fired up because I got everything there. Finally get all the cakes and the milk. So then I started serving everyone with the milk, and Gurudeva was the last one, and he was holding the earthen cup. And I was like putting the milk like this, and then the milk started dripping. And there was a hole in the cup. The hole in the cup, so that was the only milk that was a hole. And I was like pouring it, and it was like dripping, and all the girls were like looking at me and said, what's going on? And Gurudeva like gave me a really heavy look and he said, just look at this guy. He's from the Philippines and this guy don't drink milk. And I was just standing there like stunned and I couldn't move. And I was thinking this, God sent somebody to kill me because I just wanted to get out of the room. So that was the last night. And that afternoon, somebody from Dallas came with a big container of cashew birthday. And Gurudeva would always treasure this cashew birthday. And he told me to just check on that and just give me one piece at a time. And I said, okay, no problem, I could do that. This is a very simple task. So I had this whole tray of cashew birthday, and I kept it in the bag. And he said, okay, just give me one cashew birthday tonight, and we'll bring it tomorrow. I said, okay. So I gave him cashew birthday that night, just one piece. And then we drove from Mayapur to Calcutta airport. And Bhakti Maharaj was there. He was talking to Gurudeva and said, oh yeah, I remember, he said to Bhakti Maharaj, I had some cashew birthday. And he said, hey, Advaita. He called me and said, where's the cashew birthday? And I said, oh, the cashew birthday, I forgot. The cashew birthday was still in Mayapur, and I put it in the bag. And then somehow I was fixing his bag. And I put the cashew birthday on the table, and I forgot all about cashew birthday. And I said, Gurudeva, I forgot. And he didn't say anything. He just gave me this look, and he didn't say anything. Because that night, the same night, was the milk issue. So this is a heavy one. But then that night, we went to Srila Maharaj ashram in Yamibag. We stayed there for about, I think, 2 nights before we left for Vrindavan. And that night, he told me to give him a massage. And Gurudeva would always ask me to massage his legs. And everything was okay that day. I mean, there was no heavy duties or saws or anything. So I was, feeling happy that this day, I'll be okay. So I was massaging him, and it's like 2 hours just massaging him. And he said, wait, what time is it? I said, Gurudeva, it's 12 o'clock. What? Why didn't you tell me? You've been massaging for 2 hours. I said, yes, Gurudeva. And he said, okay, why don't you just turn off the light and sleep? And then I was leaving the room and turned off the light and said, Advaita, like a very soft voice, and he said, "Come here." And then, "Yes, Gurudev." And then, don't turn on the lights," he said, "just come near me." And he said, "I'm very sorry that I have to give you sauce every time, but I noticed that every time I give you sauce, you shake like anything." So he said, "But don't worry, from now on, I won't give you sauce anymore." So that time, 1984, I still remember that. From that time until the last moment that he was here, he never gave me any sauce.
Nagini Shakti Maji.
I'm Nagini Shakti Devidasi. I lived in Dallas from 1983 until 1992, and I moved to Alachua, Florida. I was here during those times when Gurudeva was very, very heavy, so I have lots of memories about that. As many of you mentioned, he had a domineering personality, but so did I. And we would often clash. And really, the way that the team would go, I would speak my mind and then he would chastise me, and then I would speak my mind some more and he'd chastise me, and then I'd speak my mind some more and then he'd chastise me, and finally he would win. Generally, Srila Gurudeva would win. And one story I have, I wanted to move to Florida because I wanted to be part of the ashram there. And I wrote a letter to him asking if I could go, and he called me in, and he was very, very upset. He did not want me to go. And I kept pushing and giving him reasons why I should go. And he kept saying, giving me reasons why I shouldn't go. And finally, because I was rather bold and I wouldn't step back, and I was supposed to be cooking for him that day, lunch. Finally, he yelled at me and he said, "Just shut up. Just shut up. You're just a stupid woman. Just shut up." And of course, I'm crying and hated that. So at that point, I just said, "I better shut up." So I shut up, and then I'm sitting there, and my face is all wet, and my husband's sitting there not knowing what to say, and he goes, "Can you still cook for me tonight?" So he came in, I cooked for him, everything went nicely. The next day he calls me in, up to his quarters up here. He said, "So do you understand everything we talked about yesterday?" And I said, "No." And he said, "But you're not leaving, are you?" And I said, "No, I'm not leaving." He said, "Good." He said, "Can you cook for me today exactly what you cooked for me yesterday?" And I said, "Yeah, sure, we're good." That's one of my very fond memories. Another, a little humorous memory, I was wanting to go to see Srila Gurudeva at a class. He was having a program at Krishna Shakti's house. And I was rushing, I was making a sweet for him. So I was rushing, I made a gingerbread cake, but I didn't have time to make a whipped cream or a lemon butter sauce, so I just took a shortcut and I sprinkled it with powdered sugar. So I went to the program, and after the program I went up to serve Srila Gurudeva his cake. And I was waiting in the kitchen because, the cook always wants to know how Gurudeva liked the prasadam. And I got a call in. There was lots of people in the room. A turnout, I remember specifically, was in the room. And he said, "Vladimir Shakti, what kind of cake is this?" And I said, "Sugar, it's a gingerbread cake." And he goes, "But I'm chewing and chewing and chewing." He said, "It's so dry. It's dry like my body philosophy." And I really felt like biting my tongue not to laugh. He mentioned something else, the cookies. He said, "And these cookies are weird." So I was explaining to him how I could have made it better. I could have made the whipped cream or the lemon butter, and he kept saying, no, it was just bad cake. Later, as I got to cook more for him, he actually came to my home in Florida during some Temple President GBC meetings. I I made that same gingerbread cake for him, and I used that lemon butter sauce, nice and warm. And he always had a guest. After he finished eating it, he said, oh, actually, after the first bite, he said, Americans make the best desserts. So there's so many more stories, but I'll let someone else have a shot at it.
Some devotees think I know Lydia Shakti. Lydia is very proud of his disciples who go back to school and are professional. And as a mother of many
children and 3 grandchildren.
mother of 4 and 3 grandchildren, she went back to school, got her law degree, and practices law in Florida. Very proud of us when devotees succeed.
She told me that she did 6 cases and she won 6 cases.
I did the last 6, I'm 6 out of 7, but I'm waiting for on to hear on the 7. Anyway, you win some, you win some.
You've got a lot of practice, so she She also headed up the Food for Life program in Dallas for years. So very dedicated. We tried to get her back, but we haven't won yet.
I'm sitting for the Texas bar at the end of July.
She's sitting for the Texas bar. I think she's trying to get her license to be able to practice in Texas.
Just pray for everybody.
Well, I think we should just keep letting our love flow. So you do more and more, because that's what'll draw you back. This woman has a big heart. Anyone else like this? The deed is done.
Yeah.
After her, anyone, so we can know who's going to come in next. Chandravali Prabhu. Srila got a funny one.
I met Srila with Gurudeva. I was considered a disciple from Malaysia. And just like I remember Nana said, we went to the whole field to meet again. We were the last 3 Sankirtan devotees who were traveling for 3 months from the holidays, and we were visiting tons and tons of books all around the Philippines. And then we met him and before, ever since then he's been very compassionate to me and did a lot of personal service. I remember that one time we had a nice temple that he established in Makati, which is a prominent, for the Filipinos and all rich people and educated people living there. So he established preaching to the intellectual class of people there. So I was fortunate for like 3 months to do personal service for him. Right after I dressed the deities, I would go there and do his breakfast. Right after the breakfast, I would do his laundry, and after doing his laundry, I cook lunch, and after cooking lunch, I would iron his laundry, and after ironing his laundry, I would bake for him and do his dinner. I did this for 3 months every day. And I would start chanting my rounds at 9 o'clock, my first round. So it's really nice personal service, and even told Bhaktivedanta Maharaj was visiting, told Bhaktivedanta Maharaj to personally teach me how to cook. So we both went in the kitchen and learned how to cook. So I got a lot of mercy from him. And here in Dallas too, while I was in the restaurant, I worked in the restaurant for 12 years. And I got a lot of mercy there, and his professors would come and did a lot of personal service for him. So when he graduated, he told me that you can come to my graduation because you did a lot of service to my professors. So I got that mercy there too. So, and I quit working in the restaurant myself, and my husband Chaitanya Chandra quit the restaurant 2 years from now. And just 3 weeks ago, I took a vacation in Mississippi. I have 2 kids, and I opened a store in a mall, and Gurudeva has been writing me and told me, work hard, and Krishna is going to bless you so wonderfully, and just be Krishna conscious for the rest of your life. So I went to Mississippi, took a break. My husband went to New York Pathayatra. He dropped the stairs, stayed with a Malaysian friend, and the farm community in Taliban. I stayed there for 2 weeks, had Malaysian prasadam, and bad chance at the time. I bought a lot of Gurudev's books, but I didn't get to read them. So 2 days I got busy, all my bad excuses. Then one day, my coach was sick, My son is running all around the farm. My daughter is spending time with some of her age friends. I was sitting and chanting, I think I chanted 36 rounds. And then his house was full of pictures of Krishna and Prabhupada, Gurudeva, and all that. After chanting 36 rounds, I just burst out crying and crying and crying. I said, Gurudeva, I feel like orphanage. I just feel like a dog without a master. You know, all my life since I joined the movement, I always had a master controlling me, and we're very, controlling nature. Even when I didn't want to be doing something, or calling, make sure I'm engaged. Or I was living going to SM, he would come and talk to me during japa almost every day. For a few minutes, say something, I'll talk about his professor, or Prashadam, okay, so, whatever. So the relationship is so tight, every time he's instructing me to do something, and then I feel that he's not there. Physically I'm feeling the separation. So I was crying and crying and crying, and then it just came naturally. And then I said, anyway, it's like a boat there, Prabhupada's there, Prabhupada pulled in. I feel all the nice Vaishnavas around this boat. And I said, I just pray that I'll be just an ant in the corner. Whatever happens, I'm going to be an ant in the corner in his God. This is Prabhupada's body. So, and also I was handling, what should I do? You want to wrote me a letter that, don't really work and, secure yourself financially. And, I promise you preaching is going to come to you. Just establish yourself materially. Then I said, now what am I going to do? How am I going to inspire myself? The Krishna was preaching for me, it's bothering me in my heart. So then I prayed, please come through a dream and instruct me, or send and inspire devotees who win my heart again, that I'll be enthusiastic for the other half of my life. So next day I had this dream that he came back. So he went to the spiritual world, he came back. And all my God brothers and God sisters were so amazed he came back. You are back, they said. You are back. But I was already lamenting the day before in reality. So when he came back, I ran to his feet and I was crying. I said, I miss you, I miss you, I miss you, I miss you. I was crying at his feet. And then after I satisfied, after crying till full satisfaction, I sat down. Beside him, he told me to sit down. I said, and then he took a little envelope. He took out a beautiful silver ring, small ring with a small bell. And he said, this is from Radharani to you. Wow. And I tried to fit in all my fingers, but all the fingers wouldn't fit. I had a big finger, because it did, So then I looked at him and said, Radharani must be small. So I feel like I have a ring from Radharani from Srila wearing on my pinky finger. So then he came and everybody was shocked. In this dream, Srila came. And all my God brothers and God sisters were amazed. And see, you came back and they had a state of shock. And I was feeling that, wow, Gurudeva is here. So I just ran on his feet and I started crying and crying and crying. Gurudeva, you're back, and I'm feeling so much separation. I'm missing you, I'm missing you, and I'm missing you. Until I fully, cried out to my heart. And he told me to sit down beside him. And then he took out from his little purse an envelope and he gave me this little ring. It's a pure silver ring with a little bell. And he said, this is from Radharani to you. So I tried fitting in all my fingers in one fit. And finally it fit my little pinky finger. And I said, Gurudeva, Radharani must be small. He said, yes. He had a smile and said, yes. Then there's another anonymous person standing beside me. And this person and me, between me and her, I can't remember that part. One was asking, so what is the nearest thing here compared to the spiritual world? So he went and brought us, and he brought a blue flower, and he brought us a painting of Krishna's blue. It's a beautiful blue. And he said, this is the nearest color of Krishna in the spiritual world compared to the material world. And then we walked for a while, after he showed that. So it was really very Krishna consciousness, very beautiful. And then we started walking again. We started walking, and we started walking. He said, "Why don't you all go ahead, and I'll follow you." So me and this anonymous person started walking on the right side, and he started walking on the left side. And I came to a dead end and I had to turn on the right. And I became nervous, where is he going? And I started looking and peeking behind, I started walking backward. And he realized that I'm nervous that he's going to he's going to leave. And he understood me. So then he came back, we met again, he said, okay, let's go. Then we came and we turned to that dead end and went to the other side and brought me to a special room. And in this room, there's a few people, and he told one of the persons, show her what it is to be what it is to be in the spiritual world. So this whole room turned into a whole yoga maya situation. I felt that I was dressed almost like a Gandharva or a gopi. I felt so light. It's out of this world. It's a whole different situation. It's not touched by any lust, greed, envy, nothing. It's just different. It's so different. And me and this other person, anonymous person, lady, we were dancing and dancing and dancing. While we were dancing for a long time, I felt ever-increasing bliss in my heart, which I never felt in this world. So much happiness, bliss, and it's different. It's so different. And I danced for a while, and then it was ever-increasing love and bliss. And the dance stopped. And Gurudeva told me, so to attain the spiritual world, after experiencing this, he said, the only way to attain, the way you can attain the spiritual world is to absorb in the holy name and to increase your devotion to the Lord, he said. And then he left. And then the other anonymous person saw me, she said, after experiencing what we experienced just now, the dancing and the bliss, why are we hankering for the material world? It's so insignificant. Let's just give this up. Let's prepare ourselves to go back to the spiritual world. And then the dream got. I heard Bhaktivedanta class is that, sometimes, because our relationship with the spiritual master, always have a relationship with the spiritual master, is very deep. It's not going to change suddenly. And I feel Guru's presence more. I physically appreciate his physical association. But right now I feel him very deep and present with me all the time too. Especially after that dream. I'm chanting my once more attentively. If my mind goes away somewhere, I bring it back. So Guru said, absorb in the holy name. So I try to absorb the holy name, and I try to do whatever I can, a little bit more devotion. I'm more aware of myself than, because he personally told me this, for me to attain perfection, that's what I should do, so I'm trying my best.
We have a decision to make. There are 5,000 pancakes waiting. Before. It's a no-brainer. So the decision is, and I think that is a nice finish, at least before breakfast. Transcendental instructions and so on. So the question is, should we come back and continue with the stories and the nectar after breakfast?
Yes.
Raise both hands if you want to come back. So it's, by the time everyone's up and we take, what time should we resume? 10 after 9 right now. So 10:15?
Yes.
Okay. 10 o'clock?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll come in and devotees can start chanting and then we'll resume as close to 10 o'clock as possible. Thank you all. Please think of the stories so we can get them on tape and produce many nice little nectar books in the years to come.
Krishna. So now that you guys know my name, I can leave. How it works. Actually, for a couple of days, the thing that amazed me is we hear two sides of Srila Gurudeva, happy and compassionate.
So I've been hearing heavy and compassionate. And I will tell you why heavy is good. I first heard about Gurudeva in the early 70s, 73, 74. This time I was in Chicago, was a new devotee. And the Bhakti leader came and said, Sri Govinda was the temple president at that time. And he said, Sri Govinda said, the Radha Damodar party's coming, nobody should go on the buses. And there was a real, so no brahmachari should go there. And so we inquired why. And he said, well, Tamal Krishna and Vishnu Jan are coming and they have a tendency to steal devotees from the temples, brahmacharis. Just like my youthful days, a gypsy. When I was born in Poland, gypsies would come through town. Anyway, they were given, one would tell fortune and the other one would steal chickens. So they had a reputation of, So they would tell the kids to scare them, they would say, you have to be good because gypsy will take you away, they'll steal you. So I thought, the gypsy Swami. So all through the years, I known him as the Gypsy Swami. As a matter of fact, I told him that story one time. He laughed, thought it was cute. Anyway, some time went by, and Sri Govinda left. There was some changeover in the temple, and I was living with my parents at this time. In 1979, Gurudeva came by, and I went for a Sunday feast. And he was upstairs, so some of the devotees says, Tamal Krishna Maharaj is here. He said, his God was, be nice if you go and see him. So I said, sure. So I took my plate, went up here. I walked in the room and he looked at me and I was good. I knew I was in trouble. I had long hair. So he looked at me and said, oh, you got a Acharya. So what are you doing now? And he just questioned. And I thought, okay, here's that gypsy, And he was trying to get me, at this time, he purchased the land in Oklahoma. And he wanted me to go out there, so he kept trying to convince me, okay, you come with me, you go to Oklahoma. I said, can't go. House, cow, have to milk it every day. I used every excuse possible not, to get away with it. No such thing. He wouldn't give up. So anyway, it took some time. And finally at the end, he says, okay, I have to have an answer. Yes or no? I said, I can't go. I said, I have a job, I have motorcycles, I have a car, I can't go. He says, you have to go. You have to come. I need you. He needed someone he told me to do security out in the middle of nowhere. Nothing out there. Just chickens and ticks. Anyway, he said he wanted someone to, do security and cut wood. So he said, it's very nice up there. Nice place. I kept saying, no. Gurudeva didn't know the word no. The great thing about him not knowing the word no, if it was someone else, I would have said, I can't do it. It's impossible. He wouldn't give up. He could, you gotta go. So finally he broke me down. And when he broke me down, when some of the devotees left, and I told them a story about how just a little while ago, I was praying with Prabhupada. And material life stinks. I don't know if anybody lived outside. I live outside now. I have a regular job, and it stinks. I hate it. Anyway, I have to do it. I have a household to maintain. But so I was telling him that I was praying to Prabhupada, please, Prabhupada, just help me do something so I can do some service. So when he heard that, he jumped on it. See, this is Prabhupada's arrangement. You can't say no. When he did that, what are you going to say? No? So I said, okay, I will go. And when I walked out, I said, what the heck did you do? How are you going to do this? Anyway, I went back and gathered up a few things and, went to the temple. Finally, we went, got the motorcycles, sold the motorcycles, 2 of them, sold the car. The car actually donated the car to the temple. So I grabbed a few things, left the rest, and I had a roommate at that time, and he just watched me. Came with devotees and he just went, you're nuts, because he wasn't really familiar with the devotees. Anyway, I went to Oklahoma, but that heaviness, because of his pushing, is why I'm here now. Otherwise, who knows what would have happened. I can tell you stories, but those you don't want to hear. But it's that persistence, and ever since then, he used to say, he says, you're a tough guy, but he says, you're very soft inside, so I have to deal with you with kid gloves. And he always dealt with me in that way. He would chastise me, and at the same time, he'd watch. And when he saw that I was just, my jaw, like, you know, I get very nervous very easy. When I go around Gurudeva, I shake. When I went in front of Prabhupada, I shook. I shake now. You know, I'm not very good in, you know, under pressure. And so he would chastise me and then he'd watch. You always watch to see how much he can push me. And then when he bring me just to the brink, when my chin started chattering and I couldn't handle it anymore, then he would just sit there, he'd sit back, he'd watch me, he says, see, you're not that tough. He says, and then we were talking about, because he asked me what I did, and actually in 1975, I got initiated in 75, and we were like the temple guards, you know, fighting Shudras is what they called us. And so I had a chance to, you know, associate with Prabhupada a little bit. As a matter of fact, I rode on the cart, on the Rath Yatra cart, you know, next to Prabhupada. And I was telling him that story. And that's how he gave me the name, you know. He said, Shudra with a fighting spirit. You know, we're talking about Kshetras and stuff, and we all thought we were Kshetras. Look at us now, our bodies can't even move. But it was nice. It was a nice service to the devotees. And so he would always, whenever he would go for a walk or something, he would always get you come with me just in case something happens. So he would take me with. And I would walk like, Jesus, protect him, you gotta be kidding. But at the same time, this was so heavy, he just pull you. He make you do service, and you push and you push and you push. And some of the ways, I know it's intimidating sometimes, but that pushing, some of us need. I personally need that. If I wasn't pushed, you know, I'm stubborn like a mule. It's very difficult to get me to do things. When you push me past that point where I was telling you that I'll come up here and I'll crack up, you know, when you push me to that point, you know, you just need that extra push. And I hear this all the time, where they would push. Just that extra, that little bit of extra, he make us do that little bit of extra so we can become, you know, better and better servants. And this is what he did with me. I can tell you many stories, but, you know, some of the times we traveled and stuff, but some of the preaching. The thing that I wanted to say is, you know, that heaviness, what I actually like to tell Gurudeva, thank you very much for that heaviness and that pushing that you did for me. You took me under your wing and you kept me for years. You kept me going. Thank you very much. I'll never be able to repay that. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Yoga. It's like every person you could ask them to talk for 5 hours, you know? Not fair. And then next year.
There's so many wonderful things. When next time we should do it in a little more casual way. You just kind of look at people and give them the mic. We did this at one time where we had a bunch of devotees in Chicago. We had a bunch of devotees, and they would just tell Pastor, I don't mean to barge in, excuse me for this, but it was real casual, and devotees would just speak. And it was, you know, Gurudeva would do this many times too. Every time we get devotees together, he would start up, and then he would just let everybody go. We did it in Chicago. It worked out so well. You know, questions and it was wonderful. So, you know, sometime, you know, I'm not going to be here, but it's a wonderful program. We had a great time. And with Gurudeva, it was like that. Whenever we would go upstairs, that's what he would do. He just very casually. And some of the most nectarine times were when Gurudeva was very casual. You know that. We've been up there many times. And sometimes he would just sit there and just the smile itself, he would just smile, laugh about something, and everybody would just get overwhelmed. So that sweetness is, you can't project that sweetness, you know, so anyway.
You can. Are we waiting for you or something before Mother Felicia speak? So, who would like to say something now?
Radha Krishna.
Yeah, sure.
Come on.
How'd you been too? Can I share?
Please. Before you forget it yourself, in 30, 40 years.
She liked to speak.
Yes, please. There you go.
Send feedback about it.
Hare Krishna, I'm Gurudeva. I just arrived to university last year, August. I'm from Calcutta. I should suggest from Calcutta, from Mayapur and Calcutta, because that's where I received my Bhakti training during the first years under the guidance of Srila Prabhu and Abhidhamma Prabhu, my two senior god brothers. And in fact, Puja University, Gurudeva, I met, in fact, they were the ones who introduced me to Srila Gurudeva in Mayapur in the year 1998 during the Janmashtami festival. And in fact, I should say more than later on he became my spiritual master, but from the very beginning he was my academic advisor, the best academic advisor I've ever had in my life. Because I'm a very academic person to say, and I'm very attached to my academic life from the very beginning. And when I was in Mayapur, and everybody was kind of telling me you should take initiation and I should start choosing a guru. So I came across an article in the Bhaktivedanta magazine about Srila Gurudeva in developing the Taoist community, and how he was being so practical and helping the devotees to balance their material and spiritual lives. And the thing that attracted me the most was his academic achievements. So when I first met Srila Gurudeva in Mayapur, more than meeting a spiritual master or the GBC head, I was like public with enthusiasm and meeting a Fulbright scholar. That was like a great, I can't wait to see him. And when I met him in his quarters in Mayapur, and I just even forgot of kind of maintaining all the Vaishnava etiquettes. I was like bubbling my heart to him, pouring out my heart. I did this and I did that. I won this scholarship and that achievement. And I'm so happy that I'm got this lifetime opportunity of meeting a Fulbright scholar. And then Srila Prabhupada first started looking at me like, this is your first meeting with Gurudeva, and they kind of prepared me so much, it was very heavy, and you've got to be like, you must be prepared and ask you questions, but I was like, I was kind of so, free from tension, so that was like my first experience with Srila Gurudeva. And then later on, I met him again in 1999 in Mayapur, in Vrindavan town, in Govardhan. And at that time, I was kind of a little confused as to what I should be doing with my academic life, because I was on the verge of finishing my master's. And in India, you just can't take independent decisions. You're kind of caught in the social web where your personal decisions are influenced by the extended family, the society, the parents, the relatives, and everybody else, more than what you want to do yourself. But I found that, yes, the person whom I met in 98 in Mayapur, he would be the right person to show me the way exactly what I should do. So again, he took the role of the perfect academic advisor in my life, and in Govardhan, he told me, so what do you want, now what you want to do, Arpita? My legal name is Arpita. So I told him, Gurudeva, I'm having these opportunities, I'm getting these offers for my postdoc, for my doctoral research fellowship, and I want to go to South India, and then, because I always wanted to be in India, I never wanted to come to the West, so I said I want to go to Coimbatore to do my, later research work, or I want to go to Delhi to do. So I was kind of trying to discuss with him all the opportunities I had then to do my further studies. And then all of a sudden he just took a deep breath and just closed his eyes for a minute. So I was thinking, okay, now he's going to give me his final decisions on what I should do. And I was like, okay, now I know, what my academic advisor is going to tell me, that's going to be the perfect decision of my life. Okay. And then, I just had two devotees with me, Srila Prabhu and Krishna Vyasa. She's a Prabhupada disciple who took second initiation from Srila Gurudeva, and I've been fortunate to get her association in Vrindavan. So then Gurudeva just opened his eyes and told me, I want you to go to America to do your doctoral studies. And I was like, my first expression was, Gurudeva, it's so far off. I couldn't believe, because I was always brought up in a protected family when my mother, my father was so protective. Going out to America to do my doctoral studies. And then they started counting the miles and started counting the hours, how many hours and miles America is from here. And I was like, Gurudeva was at that level, and I was like, but what are you doing to me? I was thinking of going somewhere within India. I said, so far into America, away from Mayapur, away from Vrindavan. And then, of course, he told me that, no, you need to do this. You need to, whatever academic credentials you have, I want you to utilize it in Krishna Consciousness. And that's what I came here last year, August, and I'm doing my PhD in nutrition at Texas Women's University. And last year, in fact, when Gurudeva visited Houston during last year, I met him for the first time. And, well, that was my last visit to association with him. And in his physical presence, and then he was so long he hadn't been heavy with me so far, but that was his last heavy instruction. He told me that I want you, while he was honoring Prashad, breakfast Prashad in Houston, he told me, I want you to be one of the leading nutritionists. That's what he told me. So now I feel that the heavy side of his instruction, which is not very easy to carry out. So I just pray at the Lotus Feet of Vaishnavas to please keep me in your prayers and give me the strength so that I can carry out Gurudeva's instructions and strive to be the servant of his disciples. Thank you very much, and Hare Krishna.
Everyone should say their names.
Hare Krishna, my name is Vyasa. I'd like to speak about Srila Gurudeva. I'm home with my kid there. And before that, I want to say something else because if not, I don't get too emotional when I can't talk. I want to say Gurudeva possibly brought me here to Dallas, and when I arrived the first day here, he said, "This is your home, you're not leaving." And the second month, after 1 month, he said, "You're getting married." And then he made me his cook. I never cooked before, even though I grew up in an Indian family, but I never cooked. And Gurudeva is so particular about cooking, and so he made me cook for him. And every time I cooked, it was a disaster. And once I made this dahi vada, and I gave it to Gurudeva, to Radha Krishna Prabhu. And it was 4 o'clock, Radha Krishna Prabhu came to my house and said, "Show me your hand." And I showed, and he gave me this little pebble, stone. And Gurudeva said, "This isn't the dahi vada." And he said, "You're trying to kill me." I felt so bad. And the next day, so I went out to cook for him again. This time I made even dhania chutney and I think it was upma. No, flag rice. It was flag rice and dhania chutney. So I cooked, and when we served, he rang the bell. Anybody know when he rang that bell, your heart just and when he rang the bell, I realized something must be wrong. So he looked at me, he took his fork, and he took up this rubber band from the dhania chutney. I told them, just trying to kill a girl. And then I said, "I'm sorry, I don't know how it came in." So next day he wanted idli and chutney, coconut chutney. So I told Deva Krishna Prabhu, take the coconut, make sure there's no shell inside, chutney, everything up. So when he was blending, I could hear there's a small shell inside the coconut chutney. And Gurudev rang the bell. He wanted to take breakfast early. So I poured the chutney inside and put all my hand inside the bowl and looking for this shell, and I couldn't find it. He's ringing the bell. I said, okay, let's go, do it, give it to Gurudev. And Gurudev ring the bell again. This time he said, show me your hand. And I showed. I said, you strap that shell. I told her she's trying to kill her Guru. This happened 3 days in a row. And he said, what do you know about cooking? You grew up eating Chinese to go. I have to put up with this kind of, he said, I have to put up with this nonsense. And I told Gurudev, please, why you have to put up with me? I'm not a cook. You just quit on me. Because sometimes it turned up, once I made this upma, and it turned out so bad, Gurudev just walked out from the dining table. He didn't take his breakfast that day. And I went to him and said, Gurudev, just quit on me, And he said, I never quit on anyone. I'll make sure that I'll make you an excellent cook.
Sure.
And thank you very much, Gurudev, that you never quit on me. Thank you for bringing me to Dallas, this wonderful family, and all my godbrothers and godsisters have helped me so much. Thank you very much. And because I came to Dallas, because I got married to my husband here, because of that I got to know Mother Kirtida. And Mother Kirtida has been a tremendous change in my life. And her association has brought me very, very close to Gurudev. And all from the day one, I know Gurudev has been heavy to me, heavy. Left and right, up and down, he's just been very heavy. I can't even stand in front of him, I'll be shaking. And Mother Kirtida knew that because when Gurudev was sick and I was serving him every day, every single day, I was a target for him. And Mother Kirtida saw that and said, just be patient, Father Guru. And I always go approach Mother Kirtida and say, why Gurudev is so heavy to me? I see he's been so sweet to everyone, all the Matajis. And I heard Gurudev is so heavy like a thunderbolt and sweet like a rose petal, but I haven't tasted that sweetness. Like Karl Prabhu was telling me, I haven't tasted that heaviness. I was praying, I haven't tasted that sweetness. So I want that sweetness. I tasted this many years that heavy and I'm falling a part of that heaviness. I want that sweetness. I want to taste that sweetness. And when Mother Kirtida came here and she found out she had cancer and she was in hospital, one day she got up she didn't sleep at all. At 12 midnight she told me, it was not 12, Father Guru, I will bring you closer to Gurudev and show you that sweetness. And I was so tired and I didn't really take it that seriously. And then during that moment when Gurudev came to see her here, the whole time I saw was the sweetness of Srila Gurudev, how he dealt with the Kirtida and his disciples. The sweetness was flowing so much. Gurudev every day, because of Mother Kirtida's love, Mother Kirtida conquered Gurudev. Gurudev was doing anything and everything for Mother Kirtida. He will be there talking with her, massaging her leg. And once Mother Kirtida comes every evening here at 4 o'clock to take darshan of Sri Srila chanting. And that day I happened to bring her here, and Mother Kirtida's brother and sister, and not so many devotees were around that moment in the temple room. And Gurudev was coming to see her, and he came to know she's coming to take darshan. Gurudev called her hand and said, come, we will go together. And he came here, and Gurudev sat right there, and Mother Kirtida was having darshan. And Mother Chandravali came from the Puja room and said, Guru, Mother Kirtida's desire is that she wanted to put her head on Radha Kalachand's feet. What should we do? And I said, we should tell Gurudev. And we went and approached Gurudev, and Gurudev said, yes, we should do it immediately. And he said, Father, how are you going to do that? I said, I can call Radha Krishna Prabhu. He said, I must be out there. And he said, it's okay. Her brother can bring her in on the altar. And I was thinking, Gurudev was so particular how Kalachandis have to be taken care of, his land and everything, but his brother was not initiated, and he was not in devotional good, but Gurudev was willing to do that for Mother Kirtika. And then he said, well, is she heavy? I said, no, Gurudev. Okay, I'll carry her. And he said, so how are you going to do that? And I told him, I had to close the curtain and give her the back Pujari room. And Gurudev said, all right, close the curtain, I'll be there and bring her. So we brought her, and Gurudev carried her. She was in a wheelchair. Gurudev just lifted her up. And Gurudev said, put your arm around her neck. And she put her arms around Gurudev's neck. And that moment, the only thing happened was tears flowing, hair standing, and it was like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu carrying her in the staff group. The mood was so intense, and it's hard to explain. And Gurudev carried her. Then in the altar, he went through behind the deity, so it's only one person can go at a time. And Gurudev carried her like this and put Madhukirtika's feet on his leg, and another feet on his another leg, and he made her walk with help with his feet. And then he put Madhukirtika at the lotus feet of Shishra Radharani. And Madhukirtika, she was so fragile, she just grabbed Radharani's lotus feet, dived into that, and she was holding that for long. And you can see Gurudev tears and Madhukirtika's tears, and it was an amazing experience. And then Gurudev brought her to the Krishna, Kalachandis lotus feet, and she grabbed, and she was there for so long. And then after Gurudev brought her back again, put her feet again on his leg, and he brought her back behind and carried her and put her back on the chair, wheelchair. And Gurudev said, you are heavy here, Tila. And Mother Teresa just smiled. And many times in the room, they will talk to each other, which we don't understand. And it was amazing to see how they talk to each other. And it gives so much pleasure. It was out of this world. Mother Kirika is a special, very, very special soul. And through her, we came to know Gurudev's sweetness. And after that, Gurudev has been very, very, very sweet. And Mother Kirtika, the day she departed, and they took Mother Kirtika to cremate the body, Gurudev didn't go. Gurudev was in the house. And when we entered the room was empty. Everything was there. The altar, Giriraj, everyone was there. But Mother Kirtika was not there. The bed was empty, and it was very painful. And I refused to enter the room. And Gurudev was sitting on the other room with Mahatma Prabhu. And we also was talking to Chaitanya Prabhu, and devotees were everywhere. And then I asked Gurudev, I'm cleaning, can I rearrange everything and clean up the place? He said, go ahead. Then Chaitanya Prabhu came to me and said, Gurudev, I want to see you. I said, yes. And I went, sat down, and Gurudev said, no, come here. And I went a little closer. He said, no, come right here. And I went closer, and he said, now you can cry as much you want. Cry as much you want. And this is the first time, I always see in devotees touching Gurudev's lotus feet many, many times. And he allowed them to touch, but I never had that opportunity. And this was the first time that he allowed me and cry at his lotus feet. And he said, you cry as much you want. And I told him, that moment I remember what Mother Kirika told me at the hospital, I'll bring you closer to Gurudev and show the sweetness. And she did. She showed me the sweetness of Gurudev. I sometimes misunderstood Gurudev's heaviness, and now of the sweetness, all the misunderstanding just went away. And thank you, Mother Kirtika, thank you, Srila Gurudev, for giving that sweetness of yours, and please continue to give me the meditation.
She was really brave. Without me, I was brave.
Hare Krishna. My name is Vrindavan Vihari. I come from Philippines. I'm living here in Dallas for almost 17 years now. First time I meet Srila Gurudeva was in Cebu. And that was the time when at the GBC in Cebu was not following. So Srila Gurudeva was taking over. When I heard that Srila Gurudeva was taking over Philippines, I was a little upset at that time. And then when I heard that he's going to Cebu, I don't want to see him. But everybody telling Srila Gurudeva about me, but I don't want to see him because, I was attached at that other GBC for so. But I decided to attend during a Sunday feast because it's Srila Gurudeva. So Srila Gurudeva was going to give a class that time. As soon as I arrived in the temple, the first person I saw was the Srila Gurudeva. And we didn't meet that time. It was just the first time we meet him. He just, when he saw me, he just smiled, big smile, like that I'm his best friend. And I tried not to smile at him, but I cannot resist to not to smile at. Because he has the sweetest smile I ever seen, And then so I smiled and then he said, oh no, because my name was Vaikuntha Sundari that time. So now here's the Vaikuntha Sundari that I heard so much. So you're gonna surrender now? So yes, I will. So that's the first time I spoke to him. And then there's another during the initiation, and Srila Gurudeva told me that the fire sacrifice, that said, he was looking at the chanting beads, and he told me, you know what? I didn't sleep the whole night thinking of what name should I give you. And then I was looking at this chanting beads, and this is the best chanting beads I could find, and I give it to you. And so then when he gave me the name, he told me, he said, now your name is Vrindavan Vihari, Vidrasi. So from Vaikuntha, I promoted you to Vrindavan. I think your husband will like this. Yes, this is the best name. So now you live in Vrindavan. So Srila Gurudeva gave me the mercy that I could live in Vrindavan. So I lived that. So every year I go to Vrindavan and do the parikrama, Vaishnava parikrama. And every time I see Srila Gurudeva, he said, now you're going to Vaishnava parikrama. I said, yes. He said, can you please take me to your heart? And every deity you pray for me, that I may be able to do this Vaishnava parikrama. You Srila Gurudeva. So every time I always pray to the deity that someday Srila Gurudeva will do the parikrama. And well, I think this personal parikrama I will do the next year, this party, I will dedicate to you, Srila Gurudev. After, there was instance in Philippines, Srila Gurudev heard that I was studying agriculture that time, before that I joined Hare Krishna. So he put me in charge in this farming because I have a little land there. So he said, so you develop this place. And I don't know so much about farming because I didn't finish. So then I tried to please Srila Gurudev because he said when he comes, he wants to see so many plants around. So I hired the real farmers. That plants some corn like that because his Philippines is hot. And then the mung beans, And then Srila Gurudev said, okay, let's go to the farm and show me what we plant there. So I showed it to him. And then all these mung beans. I said, what is that? This is mung beans. So what can I do with that mung beans? We'll make soup, So we make dal. So I think you have to, I think you have to plant tulsi plants. And then after that, make big chunking beads, and you can sell, and more beads, more money comes, and then you can buy a lot of monkeys, and make soup. Okay, you plant the tulsi, all around tulsi, I plant all over the tulsi. And one, actually, Srila never yelled at me, that I'm so unfortunate actually because I never see his heaviness. He's always kind to me and to my family. And one time when my younger son, he was still a baby that time, I was taking care of him, and then somebody, Srila wants to talk to me, and then he called me that Srila, you have to hurry up, Srila is waiting for you. And I said, okay. So I just washed my face, because it was so hot. So I just washed my face, and then I put baby powder in my face, just to look fresh. Then when Srila saw me there, he said, so what happened to your face? You look so pale. I didn't tell him. Maybe the baby is already, because I nursed the baby. So maybe because the baby is already big, that's why you don't look healthy. Because you drink so much milk. So yes, Srila Gurudev. But I didn't tell him that. So he's very, I consider he's very, very kind and very sweet, and he's very fatherly. And he always asks, how's your health, like that. Srila Gurudev is giving so much mercy in Vrindavan when that Krishna was sick, because he said that Krishna is going to leave your body for maybe not a long time, so he has to go to Vrindavan. So fortunately, I was in Vrindavan that time. So Srila Gurudev told me, said, can you take care of Krishna? And I was hesitant that time because I don't like to be a nurse. So I said, anyway, it won't take so long. She will die maybe 6 months. She will leave the body 6 months. Okay, Srila Gurudev, I will do that.
But after 6 months, Krishna is still alive. And then until one minute happened, 1 year passed, he's still alive. So actually, Srila Gurudeva it's like a trick for me, that he just want me to take care of a great Vaisnavi. And it was and I was very fortunate that Srila Gurudeva gives some mercy that I can take care of, to serve the Vaisnava. Srila Gurudeva, I always pray to Lord Spirit that in the spiritual world you pray to Mother Krishna that I may always serve the Vaisnavas, Lord Spirit, and that's my good fortune. Thank you, Srila Gurudeva.
I tried to keep Rupa Prabhu here. There's one quick announcement about the rides. Brother Krishnagi did you raise your hand? She's there, and also Rupa Prabhu is just headed to the airport shortly. If anyone needs a ride and it's not organized yet, you should please speak with Mother Krishnagi or in her absence later in the day, Rupa Prabhu if he's around.
If either one of us are available, if people who know where I live, they can.
It's easy to be humble around here.
Maybe we could drag Gopal up to say something.
Gopal. Good idea.
I'm just, what I have to say is, no compare to, all my God brothers, God sisters, God uncles, God aunts. I mean, I feel like, how can I ever stand up in front of anybody and say anything after, so I'm going to say something. I'm sorry, but, if you're expecting anything fantastic, it's not going to be there. Anyways, I did have, unlimited causes of mercy shed upon me also, like we all have. I spent some time in Hong Kong, a couple of months back, and this is kind of an interesting story, which there was a time I was on a farm in Oklahoma, and there was different things going on out there, and several devotees were leaving. It was just a small crew, maybe myself, Rancher, Balaram,
Garuda.
Maybe Gurudeva was out there. So there were different things going on, and there were some difficulties. And plus, I had really not had so much association with Gurudeva. Practically speaking, none. Because in the beginning, he was pretty much surrounded by his God brothers. I was in the Emerson Temple in Chicago when I first joined. And actually,
what year was it?
That was like the end of '78 and beginning of '79, right in that area. And and actually when I came, I really didn't know who was going to be my spirit. I thought I was kind of attached to Kirtananda. So I came to the temple in Chicago on my way to New Vrindavan, thinking, okay, the only other guru I knew besides Prabhupada, after so many years of reading his books, was Kirtananda. I'd been related, sending money out there and getting some of the Brijavasi spirits. So I thought, I'll go to New Vrindavan, figure out what it is to be a devotee, and then I'll go back to Wisconsin and incorporate it up there. So anyways, I got to, that was my problem. lo and behold, I got to Chicago. It was actually pretty interesting. The first two devotees I met were from New Vrindavan. They were very fired up, and anyways, I don't know why I'm talking about all this. Nothing to do with Gurudeva. So anyway, but it has a little bit to do with Gurudeva because eventually Krishna directed me. I don't know why I never saw any devotees. I was reading Prabhupada's books for 4 or 5 years, and I always thought it was, Prabhupada was my spiritual master, and I felt that when he left, what would I do? And somehow I came shortly after Prabhupada left, and I thought, okay, now somehow I'm, knowing a little bit of the pastimes of Kirtananda Swami, so maybe that's where I should go. And somehow, I came to Chicago. I even met some disciples of his or some devotees that were working under him, and I was very enlivened by the prospect of going there. And I thought, okay, I'm going to go wrap things up in Wisconsin and go there. And so I came back to Chicago Temple, and I think at that time there was another guru who was in charge there, and Prahlada Swami took me in, and I met him. He was very humble. He paid his obeisances to me, and I didn't even know what obeisances were, and I paid my obeisances to him. So then I was in Detroit, and then different things happened. So at that time I was becoming attached to this other guru in our movement, and then another zonal change happened, and so the devotees, I was up there, and it was a very powerful program up there. Pritu was my Bhakti leader. And he had a very strong, it was like the highest example of, I always remember those 2 weeks, it was only 2 weeks I think in Detroit, but I always look back at that and say, if I can get anywhere as close to the kind of sadhana program I had for those 2 weeks, my life would just be, sky high with Krishna Consciousness, because it was that good. So anyways, I was there and I really liked it. We were doing all sorts of nice devotional services, Sankirtan, all the programs, morning and evening, and then the zone changed again. And so the devotees were saying, you got to stay here. You've already got passions in your heart and like this and that. And I thought, no. I thought, okay, that's fine with me. Whatever Krishna wants, I'll stay in for Prahlada Swami and drove all the way up there to pull me out and bring me back here because he said, I want to be a part of this zone. And then it was Tamal Krishna Goswami's zone. And, I didn't even know, I don't even think I knew what he looked like, practically speaking, at that point. But anyway, somehow I began to grow more and more attached as time went on. I never really had his association, but I began to hear and read about all of his association with Srila Prabhupada, and I could see how exemplary he was, and I became very attracted to that. And so then there was some time, a year or two later, I was on the farm, and I still hadn't had so much association with Srila Gurudeva. So I wrote him this letter, 3 or 4 pages. I have a problem when I write, and he wrote to me once, you have to be more concise, because I go on and on. Generally I can't talk, but when I start to write, it's like, I can't stop with a pen for moving. But anyways, I wrote this long letter saying, well, there are little bit of things going on here and there, and I didn't know whether I was situated, how things were going to go on the farm for me. But mostly I started to say how I was so attracted by, all the relations he had with Prabhupada and how he had so much personal service, and, I can see how advanced the devotees were. They got to serve Prabhupada, and, I was telling him know that was also my desire, that somehow I could get his association and serve in person. So, I dotted all the I's and crossed the T's, put it in the envelope, took it to deterrent, put it in the mailbox, and went back to the farm. And the next afternoon, I got a phone call, and it was Srila Gurudeva. And the first thing he says was, "So Gopal," he says, "how fast are you?" And I think, fast, let's see, I was in track in high school, I was pretty fast in the basketball team. And then he said, no. I reminded him about how fast, quick-minded. And I said, oh yes, you're very quick-minded. I mean, that was, you should have known right then. I'm sure he didn't know what it was. So anyways, he said, I want you to come to Hong Kong. He was in Hong Kong. So I want you to come to Hong Kong and be there in, what was it, 1 week, 2 weeks, something like that. 1 week, I think it was. And I never left, before coming, I was on the farm in Oklahoma. Before I left Wisconsin, I never left Wisconsin my whole life, practically speaking, growing up. So I was more or less, farmer quality type of guy. It wasn't that quick, but anyways, Gurudeva was calling me. And, I was pretty enlivened. And I came down to Houston, Panabhapi Jai, got me through all the processes of getting my passport, visa, and got me a nice suit and all this stuff. We couldn't take any devotional clothing. This is way back. This is when we first got there. Practically the only other disciple there was Hanuman, one of his first Chinese disciples. And so they got on the plane. I went to Hong Kong, and I think I got there. Hong Kong, so that there was no chance of spoiling, his presentation or them finding out that we were already there doing things that we shouldn't have been doing. And so one by one, he was calling us into his room to explain what was going on and how we'd have to go back. And I remember him calling me into his room, and he was, just thanking me and expressing how grateful and how happy he was that, I was there and doing all these things for him. And so after, about 5 minutes of him really laying it on, and I felt like such an idiot, him telling me all these things. And then after about 5 or 10 minutes like this, he says, so Gopal, he says, what do you like better? Do you like it here or on the farm better? And that was a really, in my heart, I was really thinking, I am a farmer. I am a farmer, I'm cut out for this, although, I definitely liked what I was doing for him, but it was very, very intense. So anyways, I knew what he wanted to hear. So I said, I like it here, should I hear it? This big gulp. And Gurudeva just looks at me and says, don't worry, Gopal, I'll get you back. I was like, oh, needless to say, he never really called me back to.
I thought you were going to get you back to the farm.
So, those were a few things. I've had a lot of opportunities to do a lot of personal things. And one time on the farm, this is it was kind of a nice remembrance. It wasn't so pleasant for him maybe at the time, but I used to sleep in the upper house. He slept in the upper house in another room, and I slept on the floor in the office. And we had, what were those little critters called with the tails?
Oh, scorpions.
Yeah, a lot of scorpions in Oklahoma. And this one particular night, I don't know why, I kept on waking up thinking there was a scorpion coming near my head. And I would wake up and look, and there was nothing there. And then finally, after a couple of hours, I was awakened by, Gurudeva was in the other room, he's calling, Gopal, come here. So I went to his room, and he said he had just been stung by a scorpion on his foot. And so, I pulled the sheets out, and there was a scorpion. And, he told me to, get rid of it. He told me to kill it. And I said, well, okay, and he said, take my shoe and just smash it, because it attacked him and stung him. And I'm pretty sure that's how it worked. Right? So anyways, he lay there in bed, and for the next couple hours I called Tirupati, and he called the hospital to see, what degree of poison these scorpions had, and see how, what if any precautions we had to take. And as he lay there, he would describe how he could feel, the poison, going from one part of his body to another part of his body. And he was, relating some pastimes of his childhood. I think everybody's probably heard this before, how when he would be taken to get a shot for different things. And one particular time, he always said, you know, his mother took him for the shots, and when he saw the needle, I think he said he passed out when he saw the needle. He says he never liked getting stung by anything, getting shots, and you know, I thought these were, you know, pretty. I mean, it was pretty sweet to me, and he was in such a real personal mood. One other thing, well, this is small. There's a lot of little quips and things. One time, we used to eat lunch on the back porch on the farm. With the boys, there were a lot of brahmacharis. We do a lot of construction. We really spend a lot of time out there with us, and somehow if we can dig up these old tapes, I mean, there were some very, you know, different classes because it was all men out there at that time, and you know, gave some very nice classes that somehow I hope we can dig these all up. Anyways, we'd always have lunch, and Gurudeva would always go take rest, you know, maybe for 10 or 15 minutes after lunch in the afternoon. And generally, he would, you know, go wash his hands in his mouth, and he'd come back out and look at us all on the back porch. He says, okay, 15 minutes, left side. And we'd all lay down right there on the back porch. One time he came out, we just had, you know, big lunch, blueberry pie, and I was waiting for him out in the hall as he came out after washing his mouth and hands. He says, you know, I just thought of a really good name for a rock band. I said, oh, what's that such a good name? He says, Purple Phlegm. From the blueberry pie. So, and not too let's wrap it up. Anyways, it was sweet. I mean, all the memories are very sweet. And I know for myself personally that it's like, now it's like cold turkey, and I have sugar and knowing that he's coming, you know, every 6 months or 3 months. And, you know, where somehow, you know, I mean, you feel like, you know, you have to be weaned away from this type of association somehow. So I'm really, you know, praying in my heart that somehow, you know, I can learn to, you know, serve my God brothers and God sisters better, my God uncles and God sisters, and somehow, you know, get my quota of intimate association with the great Vaishnavas through them on behalf of Srila Gurudeva. So, Hare Krishna.
Amazing, because normally you can never get him to come out and speak. Everyone saying here after their names? Yeah, actually it's Shankabali, Gurudeva, Shakuntala, and Nila, and then Stella. How do you all remember that? 30 seconds. And when Nuka and I were initiated, we were working on the servant of the servant, right? In Shakuntala's house in Houston. And I mean, I was pretty deep in the material, you know, a professional job and commitments for years. Anyway, he hadn't even asked us if we would take initiation. This was in '83. And he put our initiated names, printed them in the Servant of the Servant book, Yudhisthira and Renuka, before even asking us if we would take initiation, and handed us the book at the farm. We didn't know this. And he handed us the book at the farm, and just looked, and he said, like, because he knew we were initiated the day before. But it was printed like 4 months before. So I just sort of looked at the page and pointed and looked at my reaction, you know.
My name is Chandra Vyasa. And I first met Srila Gurudeva in September of 1978. And after hearing his morning classes and evening darshans, I decided to surrender to him in 1 month, in October of 78. And so he told me that I should go to Houston. So I went to Houston, and after 2 weeks, I had my daughter with me on the ride. At that time, she was 2 years old. And he said, now I have Dallas, so I want you to go to Dallas because there's no facility for children there. So I came to Dallas, and after he got everything organized here, then he called all the mothers up to his room. And he said, okay, now we're going to decide what service you want to do. And I thought, oh wow, this is good, because so many times I've been hearing these verses, all these verses were flowing back and forth past me, but I didn't know the meaning of so many of them. And the verses, by the mercy of the spiritual master, one receives the benediction of Krishna without the grace of the spiritual master, no one can make any advancement. So I thought, oh, now I'm going to find out what I can do to please him. So he said, okay, who wants to babysit, or either you can babysit or you can go out on Sankirtan and distribute books. Because most of the mothers there had children. And there were so many, they were all little. So I thought, no babysitting for me. I don't want to babysit at all. So, and then I was afraid to go out to Sankirtan because I never done that before either, and I was not a people person. So I thought, but I really don't want to babysit, so I choose Sankirtan. So three of the mothers said that they would babysit. And then when it came time to go out, he said, Srila Prabhupada said, one mother can take care of a whole village of children. So the mothers that had volunteered to babysit, 2 of them had to go out at the same time too, even though they didn't want to. So anyway, I would go out. I was never really a people person, like I said, and I would go out, and after I would get rejected about 5 or 6 times, I'd have to go and sit on the bench. And the false ego was so big, I just couldn't stand. Someone that said, oh yes, I'll take the book. And so it came to pass one day, Gurudeva was walking down the parking lot. Of course, I'm still not a big Sankirtan at that time either. It was around 1981, 82. So he had his guy brothers with him, about 3 or 4 guy brothers. So he said, he stopped and he saw me, he said, Chandra, wow, when are you going to do big? When are you going to do $300? Because in those days they had the Sankirtan scores read in the morning, drum roll, so-and-so costs 30 books, $300, yay! And then he said, Chandra Valley, 5 books, $30. So anyway, so he said, Chandra Valley, what are you going to do big? What are you going to do $300? And I looked in his eyes and I thought about that verse, by the mercy of the spiritual essence. And I thought, empower me. And he looked at me, and his godbrothers, and they looked at each other. And then they just turned around and walked away. And I thought, who said that? Where did I come from? Who said that? I had to go write a letter of apology. That's to my so that night I went really nice and asked him for forgiveness and showed really, I don't know where that voice came from, but please forgive me for saying that. So I came to Guru Puja the next morning, and I had the letter in my hand, and I was nervous as anything. I was like a nervous wreck. So the mothers were offering flower cuttings, so I came up. At that time, he said on this Vyasa sign. And I came up to offer my flower petals. I had the letter in my right hand, and I gave it to him, and then I offered my flower petals. And before I could walk away, he did like this. And so I leaned my head up and he said, Chandravali, you offered your flower petals with your left hand. Oh, and so I went and got some more flower petals and I offered them with my right hand. But then he never said anything else about it. He read the letter and he's very merciful. He didn't give me the sauce about talking to him like that or anything. So he was really kind in that way. And another time he was very merciful, but he really gave me the sauce. Here's a story that a couple of young devotees want to hear about. So there was an accident. Before these brass Radha deities that we have up here, we had marble Radha deities, and there was an accident with the previous Lavenda. And so they said take him to Vrindavan, and then we would send a little Radharani to Houston, where she could be worshipped, and we would have another group of deity made, and she could be worshipped there in Houston. So one devotee, Bhaktivedanta, was going to India, so he took Govinda. And Srila Gurudeva gave me the responsibility to pack Lord Radharani up and send her to Houston. And was sent to Houston, Chaitanya Das and his father were coming up to get her. So I asked Srila Gurudeva, said, I want you to put her in a box, so she'll be ready to go when Chaitanya Das got here. So I said, Srila Gurudeva, what type of box should I use? And he said, any box will do. So I conferred with Nartamananda, and so we got a nice, sturdy, it was a cardboard box. It wasn't a shoe box, it was it was shaped in the same as a shoe box. It was more sturdy. And we put styrofoam in it, and we even cut out the form of Radharani so that she can lay there comfortably, and we put nice cloth, and we covered the whole box, and we did it very nicely, we thought. So I was going on the altar to get the Sringasana, because they also had the Sringasana too, and Srila Gurudeva came in the Jari room to check to see how we were doing. And all of a sudden I heard loud shouting, "Where's Chandravali? Where's Chandravali?" So I was on the altar and I thought, something's wrong. Kunkamani came up and she said, "Sure, they want you." I said, "I'm not coming off." I said, "Sure, they want you." "I'm not coming off." So finally my legs were shaking and I came off. And he said, "What is this?" And I couldn't say anything. He said, "I told you, do you think Radharani is a doll? She deserves a box that's made of jewels, diamonds, emeralds. And look at what you've given her. How could you do this?" And the whole time I was just, if I could have drawn a hole in the floor and jumped in it, I would just jump all the way around straight to hell. I felt bad. I was just completely devastated. I was just shaking. And anyway, he said, "Get a box, get a good box. And you fix Radharani up nicely. I cannot believe this." And then we found silk, and we found, finally we tried to find it, and finally we found Rohini Nanda's camera, this box for his video camera. And we fixed that up and put her in there. And then from then on, whenever I saw Srila, I just turned around and walked the other way. Because I knew that he was going to say something to me about that. But he came in the Puja room the next day, and he just started talking to me like nothing had ever happened. And I couldn't believe it. I thought, oh, he's really merciful. All these blunders that I made, and he's so kind. Another time when he was training me to dress Radha Kalachandji, after I had to take this crash course of dressing Radha Kalachandji because the Pujari really wanted to quit. So in 1 week he trained me to dress Radha Kalachandji, and after the first day that I dressed him by myself, I put this ring on his arm. And so then I was reading in the deeds, and I showed him, and he came back, and he did like that. Chandravali. There were so many mornings of this. Chandravali every time he did it. Did you ever see a photograph of Krishna with a ring on his arm? I guess not children. He said, don't concoct. He was never one to let me or anyone concoct any arrangement on Srimati Radharani or Kalachandji. So don't concoct. Anyway, so he gave me a lot of instructions in that way. And there was another thing that I wanted to add, is when I first started doing traveling Sankirtan, I would always get put with so many various types of personalities, and I would always wonder, and it seemed like they were always having one problem or another, and I would always have to help them out. And at that time, I wasn't appreciated. And now that Srila Gurudeva has passed away, because I always ask myself this question, why was I always put with so many different personalities? And then I realized that Srila Gurudeva was teaching me, training how to get along with the devotees, how to get along with everyone. And then when he asked me to become the head Pujari. And I wondered, how am I going to do this? But then I understood. Both these questions always came to my mind because there were so many different personalities in one room serving Krishna. And then I realized that he was wanting me to get along with the devotees. And now I understand that the name of the game is to get along with all the devotees. Because 90% of our advancement is in our association with the devotees. And when I heard that Srila Gurudeva was having bhajans in his room in Mayapur, and he was orchestrating everything, but he was taking a back seat. That now all of a sudden I could understand that he was saying, I'm not going to be here with you anymore. But this is the way that we're all going to get along. It's through kirtan. And Gopal was telling me the other day, he was telling me the other day that in Houston, that they're having once a week kirtan in the temple room at night with the lights dim and having mellow bhajans in memory of Srila Gurudeva. So I'm just having this deep feeling that we should all go back to our respective temples and try to institute this bhajan, nightly, weekly bhajans with dim lights and soft kirtan, so that we can remember Srila Gurudeva and remember that we are all meant to cooperate with each other. And Srila Prabhupada said, how the success of this kind will depend on how well we cooperate with each other. So we shouldn't bicker, we shouldn't nitpick with each other and find fault. We should just find a way to keep a meeting at least once a week, unless we're having these bhajans. And I'm sure Srila Gurudeva will be greatly pleased, because he's watching us. And he's going to watch to see how we get along with each other. So Srila Gurudeva is here. And Gurudeva was saying earlier this morning. And if we want to please him, we should do everything to cooperate together. Thank you very much.
You know, in regards to what Chandrabali was talking about with bhajans, I know I've talked to some devotees here, and it's, you know, sometimes you say, yes, I have bhajans in the evening, and everybody's thinking, you know, all Vaishnava type feeling, different, which are very sweet and nice, but if you have to really everybody should get a hold of the Mayapur Bhajans CD that there is available, and just listen and experience the transcendental emotions that were going on in Srila Gurudeva's room this year in Mayapur. And this is, you know, mainly all chanting Hare Krishna, different melodies, and waves of ecstasy and emotions that were going on. And you'll definitely feel them, and you'll want to become a part of that, and you'll want to have that same experience. Anyways, I'm along with Chandrabali. I feel the exact same way that somehow we have to do these things. I know someone here was giving a lecture that Gurudeva was saying, telling the GBC this year that if they were to take their bath in the Ganges every noon and come back early and have these kirtans together like this, they would accomplish everything that they want to accomplish in their meetings. That these were the keys to the success of our movement. So, I mean, that says it all. So I think everybody should try to understand this kind of a mood. Listen to these, especially listen to these tapes. And I think it's a good idea. Somehow there should be some organized way of getting this. So some individuals should start it, some should have it. It's a plug.
Right. Yeah.
Something about Chandrabali. Who is going to come up next? The answer is yes. Chandrabali, were you ever normal? You know what I mean? In other words, that she became, either she was always empowered, or Gurudeva did empower you. So if you were normal at one point in time, and he answered that request, because we're so happy you're here.
Dallas, I want to say something about Mother Chandrabali very quickly. That I always remember one time when Gurudeva saw her, and I was near him, and he said, "Whenever I see Chandrabali, I get great hope." So she was always empowered. She was born like that. Anyway, so mostly I've been serving Srila Gurudeva through Sankirtan. That was always my service in separation. But I have some kitchen pastimes. I like to tell some of those. Anyone who knows me a little bit, they know that the kitchen and I were not very compatible. And he figured that out very early in my devotional career. And one of the pastimes is with Mother Chandrabali. Was I think in 1981 or 82. I was just a devotee for 1 or 2 years. And while we were doing Sankirtan, collecting Lakshmi, talking about empowerment, I remember when he first asked me to go out and sell paintings, he was walking down this driveway here, And I was helping in the kitchen, cutting up vegetables, and so he said, Indranila, why don't you go out? And I said, oh, really, I'm afraid. And he said, don't worry, don't be afraid, you're going to be great. So anyway, so I took up the instruction and I started going out.
That was before you ever went out.
Exactly, before I ever went out. So then I started going out, and it turned out to be that he gave me the mercy and was able to collect. And so when Gokalacharya was a temple president here in Dallas in those days. And then when I started going out and being a little bit successful by Gurudeva's mercies, he told me, I remember that day when he empowered you. He was walking down that driveway. See, then I clicked, oh yes, he empowered me. And he said, you told me you were afraid. Now the people are afraid of you. Because no one can say no to you. Anyway, but the thing is that he was trying to give Mother Chandralana some mercy, and although we were always traveling and selling paintings, he decided he would let us prepare breakfast for him. And so, of course, I was just the backup, I would help her cut fruit and set up the table and put the butter and the honey and the jam. And she was making the muffins. But she had gotten a new recipe, and the ovens all were different, so somehow or other, how it is when you serve Gurudeva, you get a little nervous, and even the simplest thing can become hard. So anyway, the muffins didn't turn out, and so she was baking them, and I was the one bringing them out. And as soon as he opened one, he said, "This is raw," and he threw it there on the plate. And then he said, "Call Chandrabali." So then he asked why they were raw, and she said, "Well, maybe the oven." And then she says, "Bring another one." So she brings another one here, that baby, ring. And then so neither one of us wanted to go out. You go, no, you go. And so I said, I said, "Look at this butter. You can hardly cut the butter. It's so cold and so hard." So then I go out again. He wouldn't say it all at once. It was like, ring. So you go down. So I was sweating and sweating. And so, why so much honey on this? This is for an army. Don't you see we're just two of us? And then everything was wrong, So then we were both in the kitchen shaking, and I said, "No, we need some oatmeal." And then so we went to Gurudeva and said, "Would you like some oatmeal?" "Yes, do something." So we ran to get some oats, and Chandrabali cooking the oatmeal, ring, and neither one of us wanted to go. We would push us to go together. Anyway, finally she made the oatmeal. I didn't even know how to make oatmeal. So anyway, she made the oatmeal, and it turned out good. And then after all that suffering, I'm getting so much mercy, then he called us and had a big smile, and so it's like he was happy how we didn't give up. So that was a good lesson, and we tried, still went on trying to please him. But I remember after that incident, he told his servant, "Never let Indranila money in this kitchen again." So that was the end of my cooking career. But then, so I don't remember what year was this when we did this big Vyasa Puja and Rath Yatra in the farm. You all remember what year was that?
84?
No, 81 or 82.
That early.
Well, there was a few.
Yeah, so 82 or 83, something like that. We did a wonderful festival, 3-day festival, we had Vyasa Puja, Rath Yatra, remember? Because it was really beautiful, festival. So many devotees from everywhere. Bhakti Maharaj was there.
He told the story of Nila Madhava.
He told the story of Jagannath Priyanatha with Nila Madhava. That's how Gurudeva got inspired to write the book. And so I remember that, how we all do our offerings, and I wanted to give him Lakshmi. So then I thought, okay, I'll give him $1,100, and I came up with the idea, to make it a little more fun, to make a pie. So I made, of course I didn't bake the crust because I didn't know how to do that. So then I remember I had Mother Bhavani, remember?
Bhavani, yes, Bhavani.
What's his name?
Jayadeva's wife.
Jayadeva's wife. She baked the crust for me, and I said, okay, this is the way I want. I put all the petals, like the bills, like filling, like a flower, and then we put some crisscross crust, like this, it looks nice. And you can see the bills, the $100 bills too. So anyway, so she did, but it was a little rush. She did the pie crust, and we put the bills, and then she did, and I wrapped it like a gift. So I still remember him, this cowboy hat someone had given him. You may have seen these pictures. And so he's opening this gift, no idea what it was, and also this pie there with Lakshmi inside, and he loved it actually. He opened his big eyes like that. And so he tried a little bit of the crust, and he went, oh, Mila, this doesn't even have sugar. And he threw a piece of crust on my head. I was sitting there with laughing. I said, Gurudev, honey's in the money. These Lakshmi pies. I call it it's a Lakshmi pie. So, and
it's in Manila money pie.
Exactly, money. He would call it money because I used to be a good collector. Anyway, so then, okay, then he would always relate this story on and off to devotees. And I remember some Prabhupada disciples came later and how they were having prasadam, and they told me how he told them, in Manila money, he's not a cook. But as long as she makes his Lakshmi pies, I don't care. Not cooking. Anyway, so then later on, many years later, when Gurudev came here to Dallas to go to SMU, I think it was in 96 or 95, no? I remember that he was coming. We knew he was coming, but like 4 days later, my husband and I, and Shamli was only 2, we had gone to this lake. And we were camping, and it was the first time I was camping. I couldn't even sleep, it was so hard to climb. But I had a dream with Gurudev, that Gurudev was called me over the phone and asked me to cook for him. So I said, well, it's an amazing dream, because he had already kicked me out in 81 from the kitchen, and never again, it was in 92 or 93. No, 94, something like that, or 95, so many years later. I said, well, anyway, such a nice dream, no? And I was having a dream with Gurudeva. And then I come to Dallas, and then I hear the message that I think Yudhishthira Prabhu said that he had called and he wanted me, because he was arriving on the Kadashi, me and Chandravali to make steamed vegetables and baked potatoes for him. So I thought, wow, that's great. So the dream came true. I think it was like a desire, it's like a connection, no? And so we made steamed vegetables, and I had become a little more experienced because that's how I was cooking for me and my husband, just steamed vegetables, simple things, nothing complicated. No? And then, so Gurudev liked it because he was coming from Fiji, from eating so much rich prasadam, which he wanted simple, at least once a week. And so then he asked for me and Chandravali to cook once a week, steamed vegetables and baked potatoes. And it was so wonderful. We would get to sit with him, we would serve him, and we would get to sit with him on the floor, and we would chat and live talk, and it was really, really nice memories. So for then, he was here for 3 years, and for then he increased it to twice a week. And he would tell, this is my favorite meal. I mean, we knew that he was just trying to please us. It's not like we were the best cooks. Imagine, you have all these Indian wonderful cooks and from Fiji, but anyway, he was very kind, and he said that one day. He said, actually, I figured something out for you to do for me so you can get my association. And of course, sometimes we also got the sauce, even with such a simple cooking, no? Like Chandravali, right? He would ask you to go and investigate what kind of potatoes they were and where they came from, and she became the potato expert. Of baking potatoes. She knows all the brands, how they grow them, everything. What did you say, Chandravali?
It's potato head.
And anyway, she became the queen. I mean, no one can make a potato like Chandravali, really. She'd probably be baking them in the spiritual world for him. And anyway, so, but it was really sweet, this pastime for 3 years cooking for him. And I remember that in Jaipur, we take prasadam with him. And one day he told us how Gurudev, after we came out of the room, he told Dhananjaya with a big smile, he said, my relationship with Indranila and Chandravali goes a long way back. I feel very close to them. So I was just thinking how he was very merciful, and it's going to go on a long way forward too, because we know that he's with us forever, although he's physically gone, that we're always going to be connected with him. We are connected with him, and someday we'll again be able to sit with him and and serve him physically. But anyway, it was really wonderful, these kitchen pastimes that we had. Thank you.
I want to say something very quickly about Mother Nilamani.
I never knew that Gurudeva that empowered her before she went out for the first time. Jayadeva was the Sankirtan leader, and I was his assistant at that time. And I was a painting stretcher and got everything ready and loaded the vans and drove people to their various spots. And in those days, if somebody could sell $200-300 a day, it was huge. So I believe I dropped you off and picked you up your first day. And I go to pick up my individual money. And I said, well, so maybe Jai was a good. So how'd you do? I didn't do so good. I only did about 2,000. You did 200 or 300? That's bad. 2,000. So that's how she received the mercy of feeling good.
At one point in '95, I went to see Gurudeva in Mayapur. Can I tell a little bit more why I went there?
Yes.
Alright. So the thing was, in 1990, okay, I just kind of come under his care, and I was doing Sankirtan and I was collecting, not as much as he did, but I liked it. I was nicely situated. I thought that is, I so much wanted to be useful and that the devotees would appreciate me and accept me. So plus it's very nice to preach. So I thought this is the best I could do. And after I came in contact with Gurudeva, then I was sure that this is what I was going to be doing. So I remember he came in October 1990, came to Amsterdam. He had his darshan, gave us his darshan with my husband and me, I think. And he said, I've got two very heavy things to tell you. Oh God. He said, one, I want you to stop. I was doing this program, going not door to door, but I was going, I did contact Sankirtan. I would call people, get references, go out and reach, show paintings, sell books, sell sets of books. And we'd go like have 2-3 appointments a day, sometimes from North Holland to the south, and driving by myself, not usually. And it was exciting, but it was also very stressful because I had to make a sale, in like 1 or 2 opportunities a day. And I had quotas, and it was, I thought it was, surrender, but he said to me, I want you to stop this program of your contact Sankirtan, and I want you to have a child. I mean, there's so many women, they practically get married in order so they have someone that they can have children with. Now, not me. I mean, for me, it was really like children. I would go with a bowl around children. I would just not want to have anything to do with them. Before I joined, after I joined, it was foreign to me, really. So I guess he knew that. So, and I didn't understand. I was flabbergasted. I was thinking, and God said, I know this is difficult for you, but I can see that, unless a woman let me say that. I can see that your mind is going at 300 miles an hour, he said. And you need to calm down. And child is a perfect way for you to calm down. And that context, I said, good, the authorities, they want me to, the collection, he said, I don't care about that. It's not good for you. You're in so much anxiety, you're alone in the car. And so I thought, well, see, I want you to go street Sankirtan. Madhukar, he said, a little bit from a lot. Ask a little from many people, and you'll be so happy. You won't have that anxiety, and the temple authorities, they could, I don't care. And about the child, he said, I know you're thinking, why? I said, yeah. So he said, look, for me, as a sannyasi, it's much easier for me to deal with you the way you are now. You're free, you can ask for service, this, that. But for you, it's not. And I gotta do what's best for you, not what's best for me, because I'm the spiritual master. So, I tell you, that was 1990. It took me about, due to different circumstances, also we were traveling with him and everything, it took me 4 years to kind of surrender to that idea that I perhaps would be a mother. I thought, well, maybe there's some special soul, I don't know, somebody who wants to come to me, or to us. So I remember when I fell pregnant in '95. I wrote to Gurudeva, and he was very pleased. Of course, he encouraged it from day one because he knew I might have been pregnant, but I wasn't a mother. I was more worried about it, and I was from 9 months of worries whether I would be a good mother. My own childhood traumas got in the way of my natural tendency to be able to love my child. So he kind of coached me through that in different levels, not very openly, but just by saying, he wrote me, you are so affectionate to your spiritual father. I have no doubt that you will be a perfect mother. So I thought, well, that's nice, so I just went ahead. Now, in my pregnancy, Gurudeva was coming April of '95. He was going to New in France. And so we also went. And I had quite a one, and he wrote me also this letter, just very short. I heard that your belly is as big as a watermelon. Congratulations. So I came there, and I went up to see him, and I was, no, at that point, that was actually before this letter, So I came there, I went to see him, and he looked at me, I thought you were going to have a big belly. I said, no, it's just 3 months, He said, well, and he said, Advaita Acharya worshipped Mother Sakshi when, she had Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in her womb. And he circumambulated Mother Sakshi. I thought, oh my God, what's happening now? So he said, but I'm not sure, if your son will be as great a personality as that. So I'm not going to do that. So he was laughing, and he was happy. So then later, I had a darshan with him. And to tell you the truth, I was pretty bewildered in my pregnancy. All my desires for toys and books I used to read and that. So many memories from my childhood came back to me. I was thinking, how am I going to raise this child? What will be good to pass on and what wrong? So I was kind of retracting my whole past, and I got bewildered by that. And so I wrote all this to Gurudeva. I usually do that, even if it was silly or not very inspiring for him. I would write, how I was doing. So I had written all this to him. And I'd also written that I was a little worried because I felt so like a daughter to him. I thought I was starting to see him more as his father than as a spiritual master because of my need and his dealings with me. So I was a little worried about that. Not really, I just thought I'd mention it. So, about that point, he told me, sometimes I'm also worried about that, that I feel more fatherly than like a guru, and I see my disciples as my sons and daughters. And he also said that actually probably Krishna knew that I had this great tendency to take care of. And I could have never been satisfied at every house with 1 or 2 or 3 children. I need more. So that I thought was very sweet, of course. And then he said, I don't know how to do it in any other way. I don't know how to, be anything but a father to my spiritual children. And he said, because that's the way I saw Prabhupada deal with his disciples. He was so fatherly, and I'm just, trying to follow him in that respect. And then I said, well, Gurudeva, in your lectures, let that balance it out. Your lectures are so philosophical. I was doing a state ministry, so I knew many of his lectures. At least they went through my system. I don't know how much I learned from it, but I was in contact with that. So that for me balanced out the otherwise probably sentimental feelings I would have for him. So then, plus he said, about this, my yardstick is Indranita Mani, because I treat her this way, and she does everything I ask of her. She's so surrendered. So she's my yardstick. I understood that she was his, guinea pig in a way. Not only her, I suppose, but, he pointed her out because he knows I love her very much. And whatever, when he would do this, he would bring up other devotees that he knew we would be attached to, that might increase the point he wanted to make, the impact of the point. Go.
Many times my name is Gurudeva. Many times Guru would ask me to speak in public, and I would ask Puja. And he would say, Gurudeva, I want you to talk about how you are my daughter. And he said, I want you to show the world what it means to be the daughter of Tamal Krishna. And somehow or another, it was always hard for me. So if I would start talking, he would always let me finish the book early. So we feel kind of like a fulfilling a distraction. Because he told me this for many years, it's something I never actually quite accomplished. So I think I'll speak about that, if that's all right. I've known Gurudeva since I was about 10 years old. And when I first met him, my father had just left our family. And he had walked out on us. And I had a little sister as well. And it's a common thing to happen in many families, but it really devastated me. And it was something that I couldn't handle. So when I met Gurudeva in that same time period, I think I must have been the most miserable 10-year-old he had ever seen. And he completely took me under his wing. Later on, he told me, he said, when I saw you for the very first time, I thought that this is my daughter. She's right there. And when I saw him, I thought, this is my father. And I think I kind of became his guinea pig, as he was saying, because he had so much fun with raising me. And he practically raised me with his own hands. It was kind of like a puzzle piece that came one on top of another. And at one point, I would give him some money, and I'd give him everything that I had. And he would give me back money as allowance. And when I learned how to drive, he came outside of me and he wanted to see me drive. And he would always, he would always say, you're my daughter first and my disciple. And he never would address me just as Gurudeva. Even if he called me or he wrote me, he would say my daughter. And even to my sister as well, I speak on her behalf too with this. But he would say, my baby girl, or my little girl, or my dear daughter. And he would just say, you're just my little baby. One time, and then later on, actually, he said, I'm sorry to put you through this. He said, but you can handle it, And he said, nobody can understand our relationship. It's just between you, me, and our Lord Ishwar. Because at that time I was thinking, he would always tell me about take shelter, Lord Ishwar. One time during this time, he called me one day and he said, you're my disciple. And just to give you some background to this next day, I hadn't heard from my father for many, many years. And one day, suddenly on Valentine's Day, about 5 years ago, he somehow tracked us down and called us on Valentine's Day in the evening. And it was just a quick conversation, he said Happy Valentine's Day, and then somehow the line got cut, and we never spoke again after that. So the following year, it was Valentine's Day, and I was wondering, Gurudeva was at SMU at that time here. And I was telling my friend in the morning, I said, I wonder if my father will call. And that evening, it was 9 p.m., and the phone rang at the same time that my father called the year before. And I thought, oh, here we go again, So I was grappling, should I answer the phone, should I not answer the phone? And so I did. And on the other end was Srila. And I actually was up later, it was about 9:45, and he didn't even give me time to offer my obeisances. He didn't even announce that he was calling, and he didn't even ask if I could, when he just said, Gurudeva.
he said, what day is today? So in my mind, I'm thinking, or was it a Kaddish, festival day? And I went back and forth, and all I came up with was it's Valentine's Day. And it was too mundane to tell him, so I didn't, and finally he was waiting for my answer. And I said, it's Valentine's Day. And he goes, that's right. He goes, I'm calling my daughter on Valentine's Day. Then after that point, every year on Valentine's Day, he would either send me a card or call me, or I would call him. And this is very much in the mood of a daughter. When I was in London, he would call me to Cambridge, and I'd spend the whole day with him often on the weekends. Or sometimes he would just call me for work and just say, just tell me you're sick and just come up, And he would just call me spontaneously. So we would go on these walks in Cambridge. I'm sure many of you know the area. And right across from where he lived were these forts. And he used to find these little paths that he would go walking in. And so he would take me on his walks. And sometimes he would tell Sarah, I don't have Sarah here, but he wouldn't let Sarah, he would make Sarah wait back because he didn't want Sarah to know where his paths were. But he wanted to show me. He would say, Sarah, stay back so you don't come back here later and start chanting Puja and scaring off all the locals, I just want to show you your on his path. So we would walk, and it was very sweet. And many things happened.
His coat, how he looked.
I'm sorry?
How he looked, how he dressed.
Well, one time it was chilly, and he wore his overcoat, and he looked just like a British gentleman. He looked so first class, and he had his hat on, and the coat went down to his knees, and it was a beautiful color on him. It looked so English. It was so royal. It was rather, and so I told Gurudeva, he looked so nice in his coat, and he said, actually, I got the Bhakti some 15 years ago. So I stole it from Bhakti. And I was really hot, that day for some reason, so I didn't have a sweater. So he was so concerned. We were walking, and I had just a light sweater. And halfway through, he said, "Yeah, this isn't going to do." He goes, "Let's go back." And we went back, and he made me put on like 3 or 4 more sweaters just to go on the walk. And I was so hot, I was sweating, but he wouldn't let me walk with him. And one time, in September in Cambridge, the blackberries are full season. And, there was this long stretch of blackberry fields that she had found. And we were walking, and it was just myself, Srila and Srila. And he was telling me about these blackberries for the whole day. He's been showing me this blackberry patch. And the way it was set up, it was a field, and there was a ditch right before the blackberry patch. And then there was the blackberries, and they had thorns on them. So you had to step into the ditch to get the blackberries. So it was so windy also. And we were walking, and I think the path was probably the length of this temple room. And Gurudeva, he said, "Come, let's taste these blackberries." But he wouldn't let me step into this ditch to get the blackberries. And he himself stepped into the ditch. And his dhoti kept getting caught on the thorns because it was so windy. And Sarah was going behind him, and I don't think he was doing it from the thorns. But he wouldn't let me cut. He made me stay on the other side of the ditch. And he kept picking these blackberries and then putting them right in my hand, to eat. And he said, "See how sweet these are?" And I think we walked the entire path of that blackberries, eating blackberries. And it was just me, he just kept picking them and putting them in my hands. And picking them and putting them in my hands. And he himself, his fingers were getting all colored and stained from the fruit. But he wouldn't even let me, and I kept feeling so bad because his dhoti was getting caught in thorns. So it took us forever to get through the patch. I'm not talking too much. So it was these little breaches of etiquette that actually endeared himself to all of us, I think, because that's when we actually loved each other. And
how about the name he gave you? Why did he give you that name? Why did he give you that name?
He had my name for many years before I got initiated because there was a period when he couldn't initiate. So I was waiting on the list for about, I think, 2 or 3 years. So he had my name way before. And same with my sister, he would always say, he has her names waiting. And 1 year in that period, he went to Gurudeva and we came back to Houston. And he said, he was telling me about this girl that's about 9 or 10. He said, there's this girl that I gave this name to, and I gave this name Diana to this girl. And she's so wonderful. I want her to always meditate on Krishna. And so he was telling me just some little tidbits about her. And actually, you may know her. Her name is now Daji Krishna. She's a disciple of Bhaktivedanta Swami, and she's 16, 17. So I became very attached to this name, and I remember thinking just in my mind, oh, it's such a beautiful name. You know, I wonder if I ever have a daughter, or if I get initiated. I got so attached to this name. At the same time, I was always attached to having a name that started with Guru. And, but I never told anybody, it was just something in the back of my mind. So when I got initiated, and actually I had this desire after he already had my name, the way the sequence worked out. So when I got initiated, you know, he gave me my name and he said, your name is Guru Dhyani. He actually named me Guru Dhyani originally. And after a while, I remembered my desires, and I thought, wow, he fulfilled both of them in just one stroke. I think I must be the only Guru Dhyana in all this time, because many people always have to ask him what my name a couple of times or what it means. And so I was telling him later on that the next day, how wonderful it was that he gave me this name, the background of what I was thinking. And he said, actually, I was thinking between Dhyana and Dhyani, back and forth. He goes, why don't you choose which one you like better? And I said, I didn't mean for that to happen, or for, I didn't insinuate that when I told you this. He goes, no, you can choose. So he forced me to choose, and I ended up choosing Dhyana. So I said, okay, then. He goes, I like this choice very much. I'll see you. He said, they mean the same thing. Your name is now Guru Dhyana. And later on, it became, he would always say, Guru Dhyana, one who meditates on the Guru. And he said, do you really meditate on me? and then when he got sick, and afterwards when he was recovering, he was wanting lots of loving exchanges, he used to always ask me how to meditate. He would say, I want you to meditate on me as if you're loving me. And
Tell about the letters. As when you were a little girl.
Oh, okay.
Please.
I'm feeling so embarrassed.
Come on, this is nectar, you know.
Say it now, 'cause we're both thinking it.
So, it was when I was younger and right before my father left. So,
Yeah, it's fine like this. It's good.
my family situation was always very unstable, and it was always a kind of broken home, so I was always miserable. I think at 7 years old, I was more aware of my own misery than the dolls in my cabinet. And, but I always in the back of my head that somebody was going to come and save me, that there was somebody special out there who was going to come for me. So I wrote this person letters when I was 7. And I kept writing them all the way through the point that I got rooted. And then when I met him, I knew that it was that it was weird that I was writing letters to. So when he wanted me to be very affectionate with him and tell him things, tell him how much I love him, I just wanted to tell him about these letters, and I told him that I had written these all my life. And he was so touched. He was just, I think he wanted this loving connection. And he always used to say that you've taken birth in this body and in this family just to be my daughter. He'd say, this is how Krishna made it, so I could walk into your life and completely control it. And so this kind of confirmed it. Actually, on the same level, my father's birthday, my biological father, and his birthday, they're the same.
Oh, really? Wow.
It's the same day. And actually, many situations in my life that my father actually created my insecurities, you can almost put up 2 mirrors to each other and see how Gurudeva fixed the exact same situation. To the point where it was the same situation, I think the Valentine's Day story. I have so many instances, I can't even count how Krishna arranged it like that. And so these letters, he said, really? He said, you wrote me these letters? And for months after that, sometimes 2, 3, 4 times a day, he would ask me, well, what did you write in these letters? And what did you say? And he even wanted me to go and find them, to read them to him, but they were lost. Because we moved around so much when I was a child, so I could never find them. So I just had to tell him by memory. But for many months, that's one thing that I used to tell him was I used to write these letters. And I repeated myself. I counted at one point 50 times. Because when he would call me, he was so... I forgot that he was my guru. I forgot he was Srila Krishna Goswami. All I could see was this person that I loved so much. And I wanted to somehow express that love in whatever way and form that I could. knowing that he wanted it. And part of that became my meditations, as he told me, and it became a service to him. And I don't want to say that much more.
Can I just the part about when you talk about when you say Gurudeva, what are you meditating on?
Yeah.
He would call you on the phone and then say that?
Yeah, he would, he would actually say, tell me what your meditations are. And he really wanted me to take care of him. And in any way I could, he said, when you grow older, I want you to always take care of me and love me. And especially when he was sick here in Dallas, I couldn't leave my situation in Houston because my mother was very ill. And at that time she was doing very bad. And he wanted me to come, but I couldn't. And he didn't want me to come. I wanted to, but he wouldn't let me. So I was actually very distraught by that. And after everything happened, Krishna gave us a chance to do that in London a couple months later. What was I talking about? Oh, so then this is how we were related, is that he would ask me he would tell me to meditate on taking care of him, and to meditate on how the daughter takes care of his father. So then he would ask me things, and he would say, Gurudeva, he would say, do you love me? And I said, of course, Gurudeva, I love you. And he would say, well, what is the meaning of love? And how do you love one another? And and I'm telling you, he would call me 11 o'clock at night sometimes, and midnight sometimes, asking me these questions. What's the meaning of love? And so then sometimes I would tell him, that I also want to take care of him in so many different ways. And he would say, and one time, he said, I remember this, he had called me, he could have told me all this over the phone one day, but he called me all the way to Cambridge one morning. Giriraj Maharaj was at the house that day, and there were so many devotees just floating around the house, but all of a sudden it became just me and Gurudeva alone in this room. And he had called me the whole way, and it was 2.5 hours to get there. And he said, just come up before 11 o'clock this morning, you can just stay for an hour and go. And he said, I want you to meditate on me. He goes, and I want to see what you're thinking to see if, and he goes, I want to see what you're thinking to see if it's what I want also. And he said, this is exactly what I want. This is how I want you to be with me. He goes, this is love. You see, this is the meaning of love. So we came full circle in that sense.
Explain what you mean when you meant this is the meaning of love.
Yeah.
You never said what was.
What do you mean by that?
I have to leave out some parts. It was more so that because I always had this desire to take care of him also as a daughter, and but I never told him. I never told him that I wanted to, and I always thought I was being just a bit pretentious, or too forward by thinking this, so I always stopped my thinking. So when I used to tell him with Gurudeva, I do also want to take care of you. And like I said, he wanted me to have a family when I grew older, so he could have grandchildren. He was going to come and live with me, and I would build a house for him. And then and he wanted all of that, but when I told, he would drag it out of me, and I couldn't. I was always so embarrassed and so shy that I just didn't want to tell him these things sometimes. But then that was my false ego, because that's what he wanted to hear. So I just had to speak my heart. So when I would tell him certain things that I wanted or that I desired, and it's the same things that he wanted, that's what I mean by him saying this is love. He goes, you understand me. I don't think that I understand it by any means, but it was just that he was just showing me how we can love one another and how we can be in tune to one another, because he's a sannyasi, he's this ISKCON manager, this guru, but he could cross all of those boundaries just to be my father and just to love me, and it became very intimate and very sweet. And I learned from all of that until I was so heartbroken, and he used to say, just be my disciple, just be a good disciple, just stay away from me and different things. And I learned from that later on that actually you just have to surrender, and the master and the servant will do whatever the master wants, whether it's one thing. I was so attached to being his daughter, he took that away from me as well. But and then in the past, and then sometimes he would call me and he would talk about this and he would say, how's my little girl doing this morning? Or how's my baby doing? And then the same hour, how's my disciple doing? but then, then we gradually got through all these years and he later said, you're always my daughter. It was just something that I think he wanted to teach me.
So how do you meditate now? How are you going to go on? Like this? By just remembering all this?
No.
Alright.
Not at all. When I first met him, I was 10 years old, he gave me his instructions for my whole life, actually in that first session practically. He told me where he wants me to live, what he wants me to do, and how he wants me to be, my mood, little practical things. So, and I think he said, he was like, it's so much pleasure watching you grow up. I think I was a little baby that he had this girl and he mold into whoever he wants. So I'm going to meditate on everything he wanted for the future, as if he was doing it with me right there. Try not to get emotional. So I think that's what I'm meditating on. And I thank you. Please give me a mercy and help me out. And he said, your perfection of your life is these meditations. So I beg you, please help me always meditate on spiritual master and be with him that way. So.
Viva! Please. Huh. Say your name. Say your name.
My name is Shakuntala, and I live in Houston. And I met Srila Gurudeva in 1979. How do you go? I met Srila Gurudeva in 1979 in Houston. And I hope I don't forget to say the things I want to say. I'll probably remember. Actually, Lord Church is very special to me because the month that my husband is Pandava Vijay. The month that we got married, we came to the temple here in Dallas for the first time. And shortly thereafter, we moved to Houston. I met Srila Gurudeva in 1979, and at that time, we had what's called the zonal guru system. And I'll be very honest, I didn't choose Srila Gurudeva. Nobody had a choice. But since then, I understand that actually he chose me. Because not too long ago, maybe about a year ago, I remember he said to me, Shakuntala, he says, the first time I saw you, I recognized that you were my disciple. So, needless to say that, of course, I can't imagine having had anybody else as a guru. My husband and I, we're very, very new devotees, and when we became devotees, not even initiated yet, it was the time when Srila Gurudeva was requested to go to China. Actually, the first time he actually physically went to China. And I can recall all of the devotees being here, and all the disciples, all the aspiring disciples of Srila Gurudeva were called to come here, at which time to come to Dallas. So we all drove up to Houston. I was initiated, my husband was still working in his business. And they called us here, and we all met upstairs in that darshan room, at which time they gave us the bad news that Srila Gurudeva was going to be leaving and was going to go to China and was not going to be initiating. And I can remember that day and evening was so incredibly sweet. That's only one of hundreds of sweet times, but I believe my connection with him in the heart began then. Because some of you were there. I think he was there. Indraneela? Not afraid. Anyway. Yes. Sure. You were there.
in Chicago.
Okay.
Same thing.
Same thing. He had meetings. He had, who was?
Did he give me things like stocks and twenties?
No, he wasn't giving things away, but he had called us all up, it was before he left, and he had this meeting, and each person who was going to become he spoke to each person. He was on his Vyasa son, we were all this big circle in the darshan room upstairs, and he spoke individually to each person. And it was like, it was, at the time I looked at it like he was a soldier. Yeah.
This was 1980, wasn't it?
This was 1980, yeah. He was like he was a soldier going away to war. He was asking his wife to wait for him. He would ask each disciple, can you wait for me?
Wow.
And so, I remember that really thing. He entered into my heart at that time. And he, very, very personal to each person. And he had tears in his eyes too, because he was going to leave us. And we were all looking forward to being initiated by him. Our initiations had been postponed because of GDC, all these political things. He was always going through these political things. He's been put through these political grinders throughout his career. He always came out shining in a remade, a wonderful person by these austerities. But, so then he went to China, and I remember he Terminal and Jivananda and my husband Vandava, they all came to Houston after his Vyasa Puja here. The first Vyasa Puja, he went to China briefly or went to India, I can't remember. Briefly, then he came back for Vyasa Puja. And then after that, he went to China for a lot longer period of time. And after Vyasa Puja here in Dallas, he came to Houston because he was saying he really needed a break. So he came to Houston, he came and stayed in my home, my husband and my home. And they turned on Jivananda, they rented a beach house in Galveston, because Gurudeva really wanted to rest. So they took him to Galveston, and I had the good fortune to be able to drive down there every day. He was so sweet, he said, I'd let you stay here, if it was a 2-story house, so I could drive back and forth each day. And he asked me to cook for him. And, that I basically a baked potatoes person now too, but in those days, he really he just really cared about the love. That's really what it was. He even the last so many years he asked me to cook for him, but I'm not a cook, but he just did it because I loved him. He wanted me to have an opportunity to express my love to him. But we would be in Galveston, and he'd be body surfing. And he's so cute in his bathing suit. He'd walk in his yellow bathing suit, and he'd have a little bit of his tan, and he would talk about his, when he grew up, and he was a lifeguard. And just beaming with a big smile, so beautiful. And he'd stretch out on the sofa, I was cooking, and he'd stretch out on the sofa. Beach house is not very big. He'd stretch out on that sofa, and he'd lay his legs back, and he'd just sit back, and I should come for that. He said, this is so nice to be here on vacation. And I remember he said, he used to say this line, everybody's heard this line, but it's so cute. You know, when we making cheesecake, I made him a cheesecake back at that time, and he would say, remember how you always say this? He'd say, the cheesecake is so good. He said, it's like eating what? It's like eating 100 sandwich or something like that. It's so cute. One bite of cheesecake is like 100 sandwich. He said, that is not. That I love the mystical things that happen in life. I mean, I live for them. I live for the mysticism, actually. So this beach house they rented, I noticed that the landlords had a plaque on the front over the door. You know how people, we all name our homes here in Dallas. Well, the name of this house there, they call it The Answer. This is when I still wasn't initiated yet. I was still, actually I wasn't sure something. I was Bhakti and Sharon. I was Bhakti and Sharon. And then, let's see. We took great, there's a lot of espionage and high drama went on in India. And His Holiness Narayana Maharaj, Srila Maharaj, became very instrumental in convincing the GBC to allow Srila Gurudeva to resume, to initiate his disciples again, to take us back. And my husband, Gurudeva, gave him his name, Pada Vijay, because if anybody knows Pandava, he agitates, right? He's very agitated. And so he would not let them have rest. He was phoning and mailing, and even he was in India, and he was agitating everybody to have Gurudeva come back here. So finally, His Holiness Sridhar Maharaj made this statement to GBC and everybody, and they said, regarding whatever supposed infractions are made, like I said, in politics there's always different factions, people are thinking this is right and that's not right, but anyway, Gurudeva was always very humble and accepted what they said. So Sridhar Maharaj said, he made like a very profound statement which changed everybody's heart. And he said, the heart is above the law. And he said, Goswami must be able to take his disciples. They must have their religion. The heart is above the law. It's very special. So, anyway, Pandava Vijay got his name. Srila Gurudeva initiated and gave him his name because he said the name means victory of the victorious Pandavas, because of all Pandavas' efforts in bringing Srila Gurudeva back to us. That's how that is. Let's see. Srila Gurudeva gave me the name Shakuntala. These are all things that I hadn't thought. I mean, I don't know about you, but in the last few weeks, so many impressions and unconnected thoughts and ideas and passed on to Gurudeva all are coalescing and becoming a picture, like an epic, and they're all sort of making sense. Things I never can put meaning to or putting meaning to now because of the greatness of Srila Gurudeva, because I see that he's my eternal Guru, and he's just incredible Param soul, Param Guru from the spiritual world. But how lucky I am, incredibly lucky I am. But my name Shakuntala, see, he gave me that name Shakuntala, that initiation in 1980, October 1980.
I was initiated.
It was once again high drama, Gurudeva, right? I mean, everything.
He charged back to initiate, although he wasn't formally allowed yet. I was called in Montreal and said, you want to be initiated? Come down here now. So I flew down immediately, because I was in exile up there, because Guru was in exile here.
That's a good word, Vyasa. They were in exile. Literally, they had been taken away, they had been spirited away by God brothers, by God brothers who were taking them to other gurus, is really what it was.
Well, actually, I escaped the regime that took over here.
Yeah, you fled.
Yes, I was not selling flowers at football games. Let me put it that way.
Some of our God brothers literally got kidnapped, like Shikastika. She was not Shikastika, she was Zorina. She literally got kidnapped by one of my older, my god sister, god aunt, you might say, spirited away to Chicago. It's happened to so many devotees. So this is all beautiful to look back on now, because literally it's just like the pastimes of the Pandavas, the Kauravas. I mean, it's so relishable to think of now. In those days, it was high drama. It was like, so-and-so did, and so-and-so did this, that Maharaj. And we were on the So it was 24 hours before initiation, and we were hearing that so-and-so had snuck up to the ashram in Chicago. I don't remember who it was.
Oh, you mean the bugging incident?
Oh, yeah, the ashram.
Sure, I'm sorry.
Anyway,
There's a lot of intrigue.
So much intrigue. And one of the devotees here, I forget who it was, flew out to Chicago to liberate.
Oh, yes.
My godsister's godbrothers up there, and they had to sneak out of the ashram and catch a plane. They didn't have time to get anything, saris or anything. They flew here in the dead of night. Uncovered in the dead of night. All these devotees were being flown in. And we all met here at Gurudeva, secretly. Clandestine, yeah, clandestine meeting with Gurudeva. It was like midnight, 1 a.m., and he was grilling us, to find out, how much faith we still had in him, and was our faith shaken in him, grilling us, and just wanted to know, where our faith lay. That's why it lay at the time, were we still his disciple or not? Wow. And so the next day was initiations, but everybody had been up all night long. It was intensive, very intense exchange with Gurudeva. And I mean, none of them, we couldn't even figure out, I cannot remember anything about that day. None of us could, we were all sleeping. Not really, trying to not sleep. But I do remember the name he gave me, I was leading up to this point. The name he gave me was Shakuntala. And I walked up there and I thought, Shakuntala, that's weird. Coon. Ew, that sounds weird. Shakuntala? And it didn't sound pretty. It was pretty, like Leela, or love that. Baby something. Or Bhaktivedanta, my favorite name, Bhaktivedanta. I love that. And then he goes, Shakuntala, the beauty queen of the world. So sweet. And then, so I came back to my seat, and then my god sister, Rohini, his wife, she goes, Shakuntala, what a beautiful name. So somebody else liked it, and and then looking back on it, it's become, another mystical thing too. And I've realized this just in the last I realized two things. I realized one thing about a few months ago, about a year ago, that in the story Shakuntala, Shakuntala marries the king Dushyanta, and Dushyanta is cursed to forget his wife. And like he had amnesia, and in my history has been that my husband Pandava Vijay had viral encephalitis, in which he forgot everything. He forgot everything. He literally was transformed into another personality. He's a very different person from the man I married. And literally, during the time when he had encephalitis, he would look at me and ask, "Are you my sister? Who's this child there?" And indeed, he was just a baby. Who's that? Where am I? In a hotel in Florida? You didn't know what was going on. So it was very, very similar. And so this is mysticism once again. And also how by the end of the story, Shakuntala's husband is going to do it. No, it's not going to do it. And so by the end of the story, this beautiful drama, Gurudeva gave you this drama to read, by the way, it's called The Drama of Shakuntala. And if anybody can find the original version of this, not in Sanskrit, I mean, but written by Kalidas, I would love it. If anybody happens in their travels of their life to run into this, it's The Drama of Shakuntala by Kalidas. Anyway, he gave it to me to read one time and he would stay at our house in Houston, and I had to read it in like 1.5 hours, and it's 500 pages long. But anyway, so by the end of this drama, Shakuntala, of course, her husband had forgotten her and had forgotten her child. He had renounced both of them. And finally, she goes to his ashram, or she goes to the ashram, an ashram in the Himalayas. Anyway, one thing after another, this magic ring and what have you, all this stuff goes on. It's wonderful, romance and drama. It's great. It's a great story. Then finally, he remembers her. He had been cursed by a sage to forget his wife Shakuntala. He had been cursed. So once again, it's very much a parallel. I only realized this a few months ago that my life's been very similar too, because for many years, my husband didn't really know who I was, and I didn't sure as heck to know who he was. He'd been transformed by this illness, but in the last couple of years, and I've really got my husband back again. And so that's very memorable and very, very deep. I've only just understood that recently. And then there's another meaning for the name Shakuntala that I've only realized the past week or two. As you just said, during this time, we're all coming to grips with so many things. But I also realized he gave me that name Shakuntala because when I was young, I always wanted to be pretty. I always felt ugly. And I just wanted to be pretty. I really wanted to be pretty for my father. I guess girls know what that's like, huh? You know what that's like. And I never felt pretty for him. And so now I can see another reason why he gave me that name Shakuntala. Let's see. Oh, I've got to pay tribute. Indranila's not here anymore right now, but Indraneela, let's just say another mystical thing about Srila Gurudeva. He was about 1979, I can't remember when they came, 1980? Indraneela and Radhanavan? 81?
81 or so, 81.
Okay, 81, giant years are good. Were you here when I was talking about when Gurudeva? Okay, because intense darshan is good.
Yeah.
Okay. But it was about 90, so they came in 80? 81. Right, it was sometime early 81. And one of my god sisters, I was doing Sankirtan, which is another amazing thing, how Srila Gurudeva, he's made us all into what we are. Right? Somehow I was able to go out sell paintings. I could do a lot of Lakshmi. And I could never even sell Girl Scout cookies. I swear, I was seriously, I was so shy and so always expecting rejection at every door. I still expect, anybody who knows me knows I'm insecure, internally very insecure. And I couldn't even sell Girl Scout cookies. And yet, for Gurudeva, it's like, what is it, by the mercy of spiritual master, the blind can see, the lame cross mountains, and the dumb become great orators. So anyway, I was doing Sankirtan, and I remember and one of my god sisters was huge. She was like the icon of Lakshmi making in Houston. Yeah. And I remember was in Darshan Gurudeva, and he said, "If only I could have another Guru Vyasa." Within weeks, Nilamani and Radha were in the temple. And within a month or so, she was doing that $2,000. He's very potent, mystical, very, very good. And then I also want to pay a tribute too to Gurudeva, because I owe her everything for reviving my relationship with Srila Gurudeva. Because before my husband, serious physical illness, he'd been under great strain. He was a very brand new devotee, and he was made temple president, sanctum leader, so everything under Srila Gurudeva. He was really so new, and he endeavored the very best of his ability to do it, but it was just humanly impossible. Therefore, he experienced incredible sauce. It was fire, total fire. And because I loved him, I also felt burned. When he would get yelled at, I would be burned. And my heart was sort of hardened for Gurudeva. Actually, not hardened, just that I got afraid of him. Because I got too close to that flame, too close. And so I got more fear. The fear took over the love. And pretty soon, the love, I didn't feel it anymore, I just felt duty. And so after my husband almost died during his protracted illness, I don't want to get into a long story, it starts sounding like it is a melodrama. But anyway, I endeavored for at least 10, 15 years, strictly on duty, because I owed everything to Gurudeva, and I knew I loved him, but I could not feel the love. I could not feel him loving me, and I could not feel that I loved him. And it was the heartache. And I finally, when I came, Gurudeva started to break through this for me. She's a very, very loving person. She has bounteous love to give, and she reached out to me so much and began to heal my heart through all the austerity that I've been through. But what really broke through, Gurudeva set the stage, and she started softening my heart because of all of her love for Gurudeva, all of her daughterly love for him. She wasn't afraid of him at all. It was just love for him. So I started feeling maybe a little bit brave. Maybe I could have that too. Maybe I could feel that love again too somehow. And then after the week that Gurudeva had all the tubes removed, I was fortunate to come up here and that week. And Gurudeva, I hadn't seen him since the surgery, so it had been about 2 months maybe, I guess. And he had walked out of that building, the Darshan building over there, or his quarters building. And I was in the shop room. And he was walking down, and at first he laid eyes on me, and I didn't see him, but I could feel his eyes just pouring right into my heart. And I looked up. And he looked at me with eyes full of vulnerability. And he was so vulnerable, so completely soft, and so, all my fear was gone, and I had nothing to fear, nothing to fear. He just looked at me with such need. Gurudeva needs me. So, that really went a long way to breaking down my fear and letting me love him. I remember praying to Gurudeva, Gurudeva, please let me love you. Please let me feel your love for you. And and then Gurudeva, with these incredible, oh my gosh, she's like incredible pastimes that she had in London. I was fortunate enough to be maybe like one of Manjaris, You know, I wasn't directly with Gurudev, but like the majority to hear all the stories, and hear everything about Krishna and Radharani. I was privy to hear, of course not everything, there are many things that are so confidential, but much. And so vicariously, I experienced all the love from Srila Gurudev, and I gradually became no longer fearful of him. And then I wrote him a letter in which I told him so many things. But I'm going to stop soon a bit. Let me just preface it by saying that, you know, although I'm insecure, I've been insecure. I've always kind of had this facade of being independent and strong. And anyway, that is something I want to change since Srila Gurudev's departure. I'll maybe speak one quick word on that in a minute. But I'm going to say it now because it's on my mind. Gurudev was fulfilled, I think he's fulfilled all of my desires, every desire. And it's like, you know, why is he fulfilling my desire? I never, you know, it's not like I serve him, but he's always served me. He's given me every desire he's given me this wonderful long marriage, 23 years, I've always wanted a long marriage. And he told me personally, he said, Shakanta, you will have a wonderful daughter. He personally benedicted me, he personally gave me a wonderful daughter.
When was that? Did he say that?
He said that in 1982 after I had a miscarriage. He sat me, I'm sorry, some of this is disjointed. You know, something comes up in the heart and you just got to say it.
Doesn't matter.
He was in a miscarriage. He was staying at my house at the time. And he asked me he was looking at Radha Damodar. He was traveling with Radha Damodar in those days. And he was looking at the deities in his chair. And he asked me to come sit right next to him. And he wanted to know so many things, how it was after the miscarriage. And then he looked at me, and the voice is soft as velvet, with such compassion, with such shukra. He said, Krishna will send you a wonderful child. And yes, he did. For God's mercy. But anyway, through Gurudeva was rekindled. I always wanted to love Gurudev because you see, in the beginning days, in the early days, my husband was a strong devotee, and I had so much wonderful support. I didn't feel any insecurity at all. I mean, it was just solid. You know, back those days when we were doing Sankirtan, our family mood in the temple was so strong. I mean, we were a chain, a steel chain forged, and you couldn't break it. Yeah.
Yeah, we looked out for each other.
We looked out for each other. And for one thing or another, my heart mostly, I didn't experience that as much as I needed. I need a lot of love. And I don't really give enough love, that's my problem. But through Gurudeva, I started hearing all of her pastimes with Gurudev, and all the times he'd say he loved her, and don't hide yourself from me, and so many beautiful things like that. He gave me that benediction to once again open my heart to him like I had when I was a brand new devotee. After about 15 years of what I would call serving and duty, very dry, very, very, very dry. To open my heart. And I believe that I know that's continuing. I know he's continuing now to open my heart. Because I really believe, you started talking about this, that particularly those of us, I think this is all of us. Some of us are in our 40s, I'm in my early 50s, and we've got maybe 20, 30, 25, 40, 30 years, I don't know. But I really believe that Gurudev is wanting, he's going to make us into what he wants us to be. And I've had things that buried inside of me since I was a little girl, which was the root of my insecurity. And I mean, I've been in therapy. Everybody knows me, I'm a therapist also. Okay, I'm a therapist. I've been in therapy. And none of these things ever came up. But the last few weeks, by my heart being broken for Gurudev, I cried about my cat that ran away when I was 9 years old. You know, I cried about my very first boyfriend, my first love, true love. Things that I was never allowed to cry about when I was a little girl because I was raised in one of those non-feeling families. You don't cry. And so Gurudev is working a number in my heart right now. He's got brush out and he's scrubbing. He's scrubbing because I don't think he wants me to go on being a wounded person.
All right.
I think he wants us to be whole and serve him with full hearts and souls. Totally open heart, totally open. So that's my realization. Being able to serve, love the devotees, one another. I'm sure they're